YouTube.
Okay, folks. For those of you who have been listening very patiently and watching your TVs on Granicus, well, it's not working, and we've got Granicus on the phone, but go to YouTube, and you can find our town council meeting on YouTube. Now, little did I know that. Did you all know that?
We
No.
just started it a few weeks ago as a backup to your system.
No.
Okay, there you
What's
go.
what do you look for on YouTube?
Today's date and regular meeting TOSV.
TOSV?
TOSV, put today's date in, and I guess, well, you will come up. So let us know if that's not working for all of you YouTube users out there in the audience. We're going to move the agenda around just a little bit because I think the budget's going to take a little longer than 10 minutes. We did receive one letter from the public regarding this annexation. And earlier today, we all heard from John, who's out of here. What we're going to do is go ahead and open the public hearing, and we're going to accept comments as well as testimony, and we'll be looking at rescheduling the approval for 12/5, December the 5th. But Sarah's here. You want to lead off?
Sure. Town council has seen this application before.
Who do you work for, Sarah?
I'm sorry, Sarah Oates. I work for Oates, Knezevich, Garden Schwartz, Kelly, and Morrow. I'm an attorney with them. Steve Connor is the attorney in our office who is handling this. He is out of town, and so I'm subbing for him. So that is why I'm here. Town council did see this on September 6, 2016. At this point, we are just in the process where town council is making a determination that the statutory requirements have been met for the annexation. And that was discussed at the September 6, 2016 meeting. And then this is the public hearing to take any public comments on it. And my understanding is, in terms of the continuance, the notice was sent, the required notice was sent to Picken County, but with all the shifting around and the moving of Picken County, it was sent to the wrong address, and Picken County did not receive it. They may have some comments to forward to the town council, and so we've given them that extra time to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Sarah. Any comments from the public?
Madam Mayor, I think you need to officially open the public hearing.
I thought I did. Oh, maybe I didn't.
I don't think so.
Okay. 502. Yeah, 502. I did.
Look on YouTube.
I'm going.
There you go.
Okay. We all age in place. So we did open the public hearing. I see no one in the public who wants to make any comment. So we will continue this public hearing.
One second. I think you have to, you've got.
I have to accept this in?
Accept this letter in.
Oh, sorry. We will accept Alan Levenden
Mhm.
of comments, who lives at 320 Ridge of Wildcat Drive, into the public record. And there we go. And I'm sure you've discussed it. And
I have actually not, I do not believe that was forwarded to us, but we'll get with John to
Okay.
get a copy.
okay.
Can we comment on this yet? As,
Sure,
of this letter?
sure.
I mean,
Go ahead.
Or should we wait till the
We don't
second?
have John here this
Okay,
evening, so
then
that's the
I'll-
reason why I
then
was
I'll-
going to try to
that's fine,
hold
that's fine.
our comments and questions. But if you have them for Sarah, see, Steve's not
No,
here either.
I just read this letter several days ago, and it concerned me about, have you read the letter, Sarah?
No, I haven't read the letter, so,
Then I'm just gonna wait.
okay,
Okay.
all right.
Yeah, let's wait to discuss it with the attorney and when Mr. Connor gets back as well.
Great.
Okay, we will continue the public hearing to the regularly scheduled town council meeting on 12/5 of 2016. Thank you very much.
Thank you for flipping this around, too. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
So,
you know, you guys are busy as
Yeah.
attorneys, so.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is another public hearing, resolution number 32, series of 2016, a resolution summarizing expenditures and revenues for the town of Snowmass Village and adopting a budget for the calendar year beginning on the first day of January 2017 and ending on the last day of December 2017, and appropriate sums of money to all funds for 2017 budget year. And Mary Ann is not here this evening, so I would look at Clint and Brandy to lead us through this conversation tonight.
Great. So this is the most exciting public hearing of the year. It's the adoption of the budget. It's the opportunity to spend $30+ million The council's reviewed this on a number of occasions, before, 3 different hearings, or 3 different meetings before. Tonight is the official opportunity to take public comment. Assuming the comment can be answered or otherwise, the council then is asked to adopt the resolution before you. The town charter requires the process that we go through. We do adopt the budget by resolution. Any further amendments are done by ordinance. And so as we've discussed through the adoption process, early in 2017, we anticipate bringing rollovers, that's a loose term, but unappropriated funds that aren't spent in 16 into 17 through an ordinance process and ask that they be adopted as part of the budget then. Through the 17 budget, we've reviewed all the expenditures in detail. Since then, there was a number of increases that were asked to be added to the budget that were not discussed necessarily because we didn't have the numbers. But one is that revenue increased because of the way that we will run our bus system with RAFTA next year, a $19,000 increase in revenue. Our 911 system, our IGA with the county dictates that our contribution to the 911 system goes up by $15,600. The council directed that we increase our contribution to the Rudai Water Aquatics Nuisance Inspection by $6,800. Because of our contract with our public safety partners, our contribution to the detox facility is going up by a little over $10,000. Then the council at the last meeting directed the $10,000 be added be used for the Snowmass Arts Advisory Board. And then finally, there was a $5,000 contribution included for transportation planning via the Aspen Institute. So all those changes have been included in the budget document before you. And Randy and I are here to answer any kind of questions you have. Obviously, after public comment, if in fact assuming what the public comment is, it's staff's recommendation the council adopt resolution number 32.
I know there's some questions this evening, and I'm more or less working off this 2017 summary with the additions. And I saw on this one, expenditures were 31.5.
Which page you on?
Page 5.
you.
And today, we've got 41 million. So that gives us some pause as to, we need to work through some of these numbers and understand.
If you look at page 32 in your packet, your current packet, Marianne broke it down in more detail for you.
Okay.
The major change between that, Madam Mayor, is that $8 million difference is how we account for transfers. Because
That's what I figured is all
because of
transfers.
accounting-
Is it innies and outies?
It's innies and outies. So that's the 41. If you take out the innies and outies, to use your term, which I love, I'm going to steal, it's $31 million of
It's
real
called
expenditures.
from that great hamburger joint called
It's
In N Out.
fantastic. The total expenditures, excluding transfers, is $31,382,000.
Okay, so that brings forth some questions. Anyone have some questions about the budget?
Yep. So, I'm looking at the resolution, and I'm on page 22 of the packet. And I'm having trouble, as I've had in the past, getting to the number that is in the resolution. So, if you could help me to get to the general fund estimated expenditure of $17,883,509. I'll tell you what I have done. I've taken the expenditure of $15,589,973, and I've added the other expenditures of $433,145. So I'm at $16,023,108. So I'm off about $1,000,008.
You have to add the transfer outs, the 330.
Well, let me, Brandy, I gotta ask you a question, because there are just so many things, so many of our questions come back to not being able to understand or follow the transfers. So I'm looking again at
Page 5.
page 5 from the original presentation.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a transfer there, which is a net in, because presumably, right, of $2,365,384. where am I supposed to get any of these other transfer numbers from?
She broke it out for you on page 32 of your current packet.
This was, page 32 of the current packet is a direct result of the question we got in the budget. And it
Okay.
shows the
So is that under the budget summary of all funds?
Yes.
Okay,
It
so it's broken out. So,
And if you see, these are the transfers in, the 23, that's from lottery, the 17, or 1,000,007 is from the rec fund, 1,000,008 from the road fund,
all right, so so let's stay on the general fund here for a minute.
okay?
So there's 892,800 and 330
Mhm.
transfers out.
Right.
Mhm.
So that is roughly 1,000,002. Okay? That still doesn't get us to 17 million, whatever the number was. Because I was looking, I think I
You
was looking for
also have-
1,000,008.
To take the other expenditures, if you look over at the column before the ending balance, there's other expenditures.
Oh, I see, because the other,
They're not actually operating expenditures, they're below the line on your budget summary. So she shows them
I see,
kind of over here below the line.
I see. Okay. Okay, I see that. Okay, so let's see what else we got.
Could I ask a question about the, you want to keep
Yeah,
going?
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, on the transfers in, the 1,739,464 and the other big component, that 18,25,720. What are the components of that 1,739? Are those related to projects?
No, that is for the Parks and Trails, the rec center, and the rec programs,
It's the transfer, if you
and the
remember,
transportation.
it's the
Yeah.
it's revenue from RET. If you
Okay.
remember, we used to show projects in RET in order to put them all in one spot. The RET just shows the transfers out, and so this is the money in, and RET's restricted to those types of
Right.
expenses. So that's just money coming from RET into the general fund, and then it's spent on the parks, trails, transportation.
Okay,
And
so,
it's
so now,
detailed on 341 of your previous packet, if you wanted to see the detail.
okay, so here's my, and maybe I just don't get it. We got numbers flying from every place. So so those two projects, within that, what is it, 3.5 million transfers in? What amount is associated with operations of the rec center and what are associated with new projects? For example, if I read this right, there's like $100 and some odd thousand associated with the trail, hard surface trails. And then there is something on design of the pond, unless I missed it.
No, you're right. I mean, so you're going between, so we've got the, 80-something pages that we went through in detail.
Yeah.
And that level of detail, we can get into, but that was what we went through on that Thursday. And then all that the resolution's doing is taking those expenses, and it's not going line item by line item, but it's lumping fund by fund. And so you're right, there's $150,000 in there for overlays, and there's also a capital project for the pond renovation. And that, we can get into that detail, but this resolution that you're adopting tonight doesn't show that detail. We could go back into the previous documents and go through that.
Well, here's, in 1 million on a 28 million revenue makes everybody kind of pause.
Say that again?
41 million on expenditures, and I'm speaking for me, I'm not speaking for
Sure.
fellow colleagues. 41 million in expenditures on 28 million of revenue.
You would need
but-
to add the 9 million of transfers in to the revenues also.
But without the accounting language, just the simple manager language.
4 million.
It's 31 million of expenditures, it's 28 million of revenue, and that $3 million gap is coming from our savings account. And that's that graph that we showed you, that we've got, $8 million in savings that's going down to $5 million in savings.
Okay. Let me play with that 3 million for a second,
Mhm.
okay? Wouldn't that be nice to play with 3
Yeah,
million?
no, it's real money. That's million here, million there, and all this.
Single dollar bills. Okay, we know that some of these projects are probably not gonna get done. They're kind of a placeholder. Is that a fair statement? I'm making
If they're a
assumptions.
placeholder, it's a fair statement that I'm not gonna get done, I would disagree with politely.
Okay, here's what 3 million causes me a little consternation. So, in other organizations, nonprofits, and governmental entities, we kind of put that money in a reserve or contingency, and as the project is identified and it's approved, for sure approved that we want to do that, and it can happen during that fiscal year, we pull that money out and it goes into the budget. Recognizing this is a deficit budget, and some people within the community are not comfortable with a deficit budget, would anyone be interested in considering such an approach? I don't know, I'm just,
And the deficit budget, I mean, and we had this discussion earlier, if you
yeah,
remember.
we sure did.
And how do you define deficit budget? We are spending money that we've got.
That's the
And
point.
so, and we divide our expenses in two ways, operations and capital. And so we've kept our ongoing operations in line with our ongoing expenses. And then we've built up a savings account, and we're investing in these one-time projects from our savings account. And if you remember that bar chart, we could pull it up if you want to see it.
I got it right here.
We've set aside, we try and keep, we don't try, we by policy keep a 25% reserve in our general fund. And then anything on top of that are funds available for these capital projects. And you call it a capital project, if you want to speak in English, you call it an investment in infrastructure. And so these one-time investments in infrastructure, we're paying for with cash once we've got it in the bank. And so we've accumulated this savings account, this amount of cash, and we're investing it in these one-time investments in infrastructure. And if you remember when we went through it, we said, all right, we are, by policy, we're not going to make these expenses or investments, however you want to call them, until the money's in the bank. And so we've said, hey, we've got to pay attention. If we've either got to do fewer projects in the future, or that's what'll likely happen, is we will have fewer projects in the future. Councilor Circus asked me earlier tonight, it's like, are we going to be able to actually even be able to finish all the projects we've got in 16? Maybe, maybe not. Very likely we're going to come back and say there's projects that weren't finished. We're going to ask to roll over into 17, and we're going to have to say, what can we actually get done? But by having these dollars available, we know we can start working on them. If the dollars aren't appropriated, we can't work on them. So the CIP, in my mind, Madam Mayor, is almost like you're talking about it. You call it a contingency, we call it a capital improvement program, and it gives us permission to start working on those projects. But we know, for example, the housing project, we've got a big amount of money in housing.
Oh, yeah.
We know before we start actually going and spending dollars on sticks and bricks or whatever it might be, that we've got a lot of policy work to do with you guys. But we want to understand, yep, it's a priority, we've got the dollars set there and are willing to do it.
So, I think that the housing situation is probably the biggest
It's a
question
big dollar-
mark.
It's a big dollar amount.
Question mark. It's a big dollar amount, $2.8 million, and it's a question mark as to what is going to be done with that money.
Correct.
So, in an effort to kind of make things look, not make them, but get them a little closer to balance, can we take $500,000 or $1 million and put it into the housing, for the 2017 budget? Does that give staff enough money to start working on whatever it is that's determined it's going to be? And then as we need more money going forward, even if it's in 2017, bring it back to us and we'll review it and discuss it. But one of the things, but in my head, there's a likelihood that most of that $2.8 million will not get spent in 2017 and will end up getting carried over into 2018. And I think I'm of the feeling that we should keep as much or as many of these projects in the budget as we can realistically complete. There are going to be things, and that's why I wanted to look at the 2016. I wanted to see which items we realistically are not going to complete, so we get an idea of the dollar value we're going to move into 2017, in addition to this $6 million that's in this 2017 budget for capital improvement and capital equipment. So that's a lot of money on a $28 million budget. That's $6 million is a lot of money to go towards capital. So I I just feel like we need to look at that a little bit and perhaps trim some of the capital budgeted items in next year to really look at what we can get done. And you know, respectfully understanding the need to have some money to get things started, those items that might appear to be too big to do in 1 year or we just may not have a good idea of what they are going to be, we should just trim them and move the budgets and hold some money in reserve. It'll still be in the fund balances. It's not going to go away. But it keeps the annual budget all in a little more even, a little more balanced.
Yes, we can absolutely do that, is my short answer. The one thing, a couple things to think about. If you just look at the general fund, that $2.8 million for the housing project we're talking about are coming from a lot of other sources.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
it's not going to balance the general fund. That's the numbers game.
Okay.
It is what it is. Those everybody agrees the dollars are there. The question is, when should they be appropriated? And that's a fine policy discussion. I could go either way and take your direction on it. The way we thought about it when we put it together was the council made housing a top priority. We wanted to make sure the resources are there to say, we're going to put, you know, the town's money where its mouth is. We want to do something. We don't have the plan, but we want to use this policy document as a way to say we want to be proactive in it. And one of the easiest ways to show that or to signal that is to put dollars behind it. And so if the goal is to say we don't want to appropriate it until we know we got the project, that's a fine approach. We took a little bit different approach, saying we know we've got the dollars, that's cash in hand. Let's go ahead and say we're willing to spend up to this amount, and then we can start putting projects together from that. And it kind of gave us a little bit more guidance on how to move it forward. It's really that policy, you know, how you guys want to do that. And we took the more aggressive approach with housing because understanding it's an important topic for you all.
But you could, go back to what Bob is saying, we could identify what it's gonna cost to get it out to bid and the sizing of the project, and then when the bids come in, we know that we've got something earmarked, we have money earmarked from this fund, this fund, this fund, and then we review the budget at, what, in June? June, or is it March?
Well, we
We revise the budget.
we can do that whenever you want by ordinance. We're going to ask for revision early in February probably, and then we can revise it whenever you want. And that takes an ordinance that
Yes,
comes
that
back
does,
through.
yeah.
So, Clint, you know, based upon what Bob was saying, you know, looking at page 10 and 11, the general fund balance breakdown on both those pages, we know, according to this breakdown, by 2020, funds available are going to get a little slim, according to this chart, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so based upon what Bob's saying, and this breakdown that we've been talking about for weeks, I think it's time now not to wait until then to start that
And the only difference
conservation.
between that is what you're looking at the bar charts.
I'm looking at the bar charts.
So that's only the general fund.
I know it's the general fund, but,
What Bob's talking about is the housing fund.
but I know, but some of that general fund,
None of it for the housing stuff. There's 1.6 million from.
but based upon the general fund itself, I think the general fund is the big pie in the picture,
Correct.
okay?
There's no doubt that the general fund's the biggest chunk of money.
Correct.
And I guess my point I'm trying to make, and I think what Brandy's trying to say is, if we're trying to balance the entire budget, there's different ways to do it. And right now, we're spending 3 more than we're bringing in. The general fund's got a long-term problem. The housing fund is actually short-term, you know, I don't want to say rich, but we're bringing in more money. And so this project, if we're trying to balance the general fund, we might have other ways, there might be other ways to do that. This housing project might not be that way. I mean, as we talked about, we're actually, starting this year in 17, we'll be bringing in roughly $1 million more in rent than we're actually having because we paid off the debt finally. And that's what's creating this opportunity to do something significant with housing, which is kind of what the political or, you know, the policy thought was behind it. But you're exactly right, Councilor Good. In the general fund, we've got a problem in 3 years.
We got a problem. And we need to recognize that problem now.
I think we've done that. We've got the ongoing operations and expenditures balanced. And what we're saying is we're gonna have to make less investment in capital in years 2 and 3 out.
Okay.
But in 17 and 18, we're in pretty good shape. But that investment's gonna have to slow down going forward, there's no doubt.
Okay.
And then with the housing project, the only nuance that we're talking about is, we know we're gonna have that extra, we're bringing in those extra revenues, and that's why we identified this housing
But
project.
when I look at the bar chart, and you're talking about extras, and I'm looking at a bar chart that says the general fund and how the direction we're going in, the word extra doesn't mean anything to me. I'm more
The
invested.
housing project just isn't paid for with the general fund at all.
No, I
So
know,
that
but
one is
it's still part of the big picture.
It is absolutely part of the big picture. And if we looked at the revenue for the housing, it would actually show that balance going up. And but the general fund's the biggest chunk for sure.
So what we're talking about is about 4 million. Is that correct in terms of what the analysis was, Brandy, that you had over on page 32?
I mean, yeah, if you just look at the
32 of 30,
28 million, 28.4
3 million.
all revenues,
about 3 million?
31 is all expenditures, and that's all funds. And, I mean, the way to kind of do that evaluation would be fund by fund, and you guys can see that math.
Yeah.
So the question for the council, to move this process along, is there comfort level to move forward with the budget with a over $3 million greater expenditures over revenues amongst council people with the budget as stated? Tom, where are you?
Well, I want to move some stuff forward because we're not necessarily approving this resolution at this point.
We're asking for it. I mean,
You're asking for an
It's
approval.
your choice, and you don't have to.
We
December
can approve it
31st.
with modifications.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you continue to think about it.
Yeah.
Bob?
I would like to, I'd like to try to find $3 million to get everything in balance. I mean, yes, I get that the general fund and the fund balance in the general fund is just one fund. But the general fund, as is being proposed, in and of itself is a $3 million expenditure over revenue, forgetting about all the transfers. So I don't necessarily need to take the position that we need to balance the general fund, but I would like to balance the total town budget. And I think one of the ways to do it is to look at the CIP and the SURF. But I'm all open for other ways to do it too.
Okay. I think, I'll come back. Bill?
Well, I think when we move forward, we need to take a hard look at the CIP and see exactly what our priorities are. But I don't think we should compromise the housing budget. I think that that's something that we identified as a priority for the village, and that, we shouldn't look at compromising those funds at all.
So you got $1 million savings from the housing fund because of the payoff of the debt.
Right.
And then, so the net there's about, well, you got the million, which is lovely, then it's about a 1.2 or 1.3 on top of that for the project.
Right.
In terms of my thinking, so net, okay.
Yeah. But I think we've identified some projects that we need to, start thinking about for the future, and those funds are going to be quite large. So I don't think we can.
But we don't know what we're going to do with those funds at the moment for 2017. So I think the point, at least my point is not to, that by not putting the full 2.85 in the budget, doesn't mean that we're not willing to spend 2.85 if we have the opportunity next year. But the reality is that it's unlikely we'll know what to do with that much money. So put in something less than that, that still allows us to move forward and develop the designs and the concepts and the other things that all have to take place before we get into actual construction. And we still have that money is still gonna be available, and we can use it in the future. And we're also collecting $1 million 1,600,000, basically every year because the bonds are paid off.
What's that something less than that? What are you proposing, Bob?
I don't know, I just threw out $1 million,
Yeah,
but I could, I just threw out $1 million.
Okay.
And that makes up a substantial part
Yeah.
of the, if you will, deficit.
Alyssa, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I agree with Bill about the housing. I mean, also just what Clint said, in 2 to 3 years, we're gonna have less investment to make in the capital. I mean, I also think, we saw from the CCP plan and from the poster plan, all of these various projects, plus with the comp plan process, we're gonna, I think see even longer list of projects. We definitely, need to start honing in on that list. I mean, but I don't know, I mean, I agree with what Bill said in terms of keeping it in there, but I'm willing to be amenable. I mean, if everyone else feels like we should lower the amount, then I would go with that too. But I think housing is a definite priority, and we need more of it.
So question, Clint, can, as Bob was asking for taking out $1 million, can that be put back in if we take it out and put it in a reserve?
Yeah, I
Just
wouldn't,
leave it in the fund,
you just
right?
wouldn't appropriate it,
Yeah.
so it would stay in that account. Basically, you take it, in English, you wouldn't, right now it's proposed to take it from your savings account and put it in your checking account. This would just leave it in the savings account, if I understand it.
Yeah.
And that way, and I agree with Bill, I wouldn't want to take any funds from the housing, I mean, if you walked around the housing, we need to do everything we can for the housing projects in regards to the improvement, the capital improvements every single year, because it's just a gateway to the village to begin with, okay? Mark, yeah, I'm
You're
I'm
like,
in favor of what,
put $1 million in there
yeah,
now
I'm in
and
favor.
defer. Here's another thought, though. The CIP. When we had our budget session, we did not spend a ton of time on these various projects.
No, we didn't.
And I would put forth that we might want to vet the CIP just a little bit more.
Okay.
As a team.
Okay.
And serve. I'm very committed to the housing project. The question, just as one issue here. But I think we would be wise as a council to spend, really understand these CIPs just a little bit more in, are we talking about a placeholder or put it in there? We got the money appropriated, but maybe we bring them back, some of them back in 3 months or 6 months as staff has time to work on them for consideration for appropriation. That's just what I'm thinking about, because there's a lot of projects.
There's a lot going on in there.
So would you all be comfortable that, when's our next meeting?
November 7th?
Oh, shoot. Are we having that special meeting with John at the end of the month on that other thing?
Not to my knowledge.
We didn't set a date for that.
And 7th. I'm going to open up to the public right now and see if they want to make any comments about the budget. I don't see a lot of hands going up. I'm glad you all understand our budget. It is complex can be. What is the pleasure? Would you like to defer the CIP resolution, have discussion of CIP, and bring this resolution back on the 7th? Or that's one option. I'm going to throw that one. Another would be several members of council sit down with Clint to get a further understanding of the CIP and how everything works. Maybe Mary Ann too.
I
Before that
think
meeting,
you all
so.
need to buy off on it. If you're gonna take the time, I think all 5 of you need to. 'Cause
Yeah, I think so too. There's some people here that love to deep dive into numbers because we all love them so much.
My last swing at asking for it, and the FAB did review this, and we had the same discussion about what's balanced, what's not balanced, how do you
Yes.
determine balance? How do you determine ongoing revenues? How do you determine fund balance? And it was their recommendation that it be adopted. I'm just saying, so it was reviewed at that level, and when it comes down to it, I think the bottom line is it's a policy document. The numbers work. I can give you the 1,000,000% guarantee that the accounting and the numbers are there. It's really how you all want to do it as a policy/political document and set those priorities.
So would this be considered the resolution with modifications approval
If
based
you're gonna,
upon CIP?
well, I mean, it depends on how you want to, I mean, our recommendation, of course, is to adopt it as is. If
Right.
you said, hey, we want to look at all these projects, I'd say continue the public hearing to
Yeah,
the 7th,
That's
and
what
then
I'm
don't
thinking,
do
is
anything.
continue public hearing. We all just need to get our arms around this.
Well, all right,
Okay, Bob's gonna come out and.
no, I'm just gonna say this, look, if you look at the projects on the capital improvement plan on page 75, you know, this
75 of this document.
yeah, of the old document. I mean, there aren't that many of them. We probably could,
I lost page 75,
yeah,
came in.
mine fell off too.
Yeah,
But we
mine-
probably could, you know, we probably could talk about them now, and at least get
Sure,
a
let's do
general
that.
idea.
Sure.
I mean, if that's, you know,
Okay,
where
I'm game.
everybody wants to land, then.
You all have the document in front of you?
I have it in front of me.
No.
What?
This document?
Mine fell off.
Mine fell off.
That's why mine
Can
is
we make
single too.
some,
Mine
can we
fell off.
make copy of that one?
Sure.
Okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a 10-minute break to get copies of page
75.
75. So guys, just stay tuned. 10-minute break.
Daly Lane Roof Depot roof improvements. That's where obviously Daly Lane, our major bus depot, it needs the roof needs some structural and just physical improvements. Next down the line is $150,000 for hard surface trail improvements. We've got a number of hard surface trails in the village that need overlays and rebuilding. And this was one of the top priorities coming out of the poster plan was to reinvest in existing trails, not build new trails, so that's the $150,000 there. $110,000 for the outlet structure on the pond in the entryway. That pond or the dam is failing in different spots. We need to invest in it to make sure it doesn't wash up Rush Creek if a major incident were to happen. $25,000 is there for design improvements for Sinclair Road. That was the design at Sinclair and Brush Creek that came up tonight. We know we don't have the dollars next year to construct the improvements, but we've got $25,000 in to do the design, to begin the design work for that. We've got $90,000 in for actual construction project for improvements on Brush Creek at Town Park Station. That's in conjunction with the $75,000 in this year. In 17, it'll be a total project of $165,000 for those improvements. Snowmelt Road, Ann talked about at length at the last council meeting, but that's the sensors basically on Snowmelt Road to bring the boiler system up to an improved level to make sure it's operating efficiently as it can be. $25,000 for the network in Town Hall. I think Mary Ann described that when we were doing the budget process to make sure the credit cards that we accept are secure and that we can do that safely. $600,000, I think, is one of the larger investments next year in the 800 megahertz system. That's the public safety radio system that we need to do. We're one of the last counties in the state to actually go up to 800 megahertz. And this is the investment in not only the towers, but also the individual radios that we need for vehicles. $2.85 million is the dollars we've been talking about. In all frankness, those are dollars that we put in there as a policy number. There's not a project identified, but the discussion we hope to have with the council is what's the right combination between investing in existing infrastructure and existing units that we have to keep them updated, and what's the right investment to be putting in the new infrastructure and the new units. And with the new units, what's the right mix between rental units and deed-restricted homeowner or owned units. And that dollar amount was put in there from the savings from the housing funds that we've got, basically from the savings in the housing funds we've got, plus excise tax and some other sources that are there. Finally, the $200,000 we've got in there for the product enhancement for tourism. That's the dollars that we want to make sure that we're basically spending on product enhancement to make sure that we continue to have the right environment. This year in 16, the largest expenditure was built on trails. 17, we would expect the tourism board and others to kind of weigh in on where that investment needs to happen. But that's a good example. Councilor Circus, the placeholder.
Did we spend the $300,000 this year?
No.
What did we spend?
Off the top of my head, about 100. But part of that was trying to get trail easements working with Ski Co. up Fanny Hill, getting some design issues and whatnot. But we knew that's a good example of we knew we could spend it all. We've got issues or we've got projects lined up for it, but issues like easements get difficult and it takes time to line them up. And so, but we had a budget to shoot for, and we're shooting to spend it, but we weren't able to get it all done this year.
Okay, so there are two issues that equal about 3.4 million, and that is the housing and the $600,000 for the megahertz, which is about the difference that we've been talking about, right?
Well, yeah, except source, yes. Overall funding-wise, yes.
Yeah, well, okay. I say that we approve the budget.
I agree.
You say what?
Go ahead and approve the budget. At 2.8, we know we need to do the housing project, so let's just get it funded. What difference does 6 months make in terms of bringing it back in?
Well, because it may not be brought back in 6 months.
Well, we've got a lot of policy work to do with you guys to make sure we know it's spent in the right spot.
Right. You've got a lot, there's a lot of things to do, including the comp plan review that will affect that. So I'd put $1 million in there, and I'd take the 200,000 out of Snowmass. I'd cut the 200 in Snowmass tourism to 100 because we haven't spent the 300 that we gave them last year. Not that they should go out and spend it just because it's there, but
So you want to take this down to 100?
Yeah.
And just go to $1 million?
Yeah.
Okay.
But in all transparency, isn't the 2.8 really identifying a property for potential acquisition?
That's where the number originally came from, and that acquisition fell through. But that's where that original dollar came from, yeah.
Where is this going to go into a reserve? that extra
It's- it's-
$100,000,
it's-
Place
It
in the housing
stays in
fund.
the fund
it
balance.
stays in fund.
Yeah, and so, but just so you recognize how so next year, that in product improvement, what was authorized this year doesn't roll over automatically for next year. So you're cutting the investment that way, and that's
Well, so is it different if, well, since there wasn't any, there's no money in the 2016 housing opportunities to move forward, all right? But there is money in the Snowmass tourism, which will be unspent. So do we not move that, do we approve 200,000 and then not move the 200 that didn't get spent this year? It's all the same thing.
It's a carryover is what you're saying.
It's all the same thing. I mean, I guess,
The carryover is.
I guess I would carry over what we haven't spent rather than budget new money, because, again, I'm just trying to get, I'm trying to get the budget into balance.
well, and we can do that for
I
sure.
mean, that's my
And
goal,
if the
whether
budget
it's
and the balance
anybody
is the goal,
else's or not.
I think we should hold this off to the 7th to go
Yeah, I
fund
think
by
so.
fund.
I think
Because
so,
that's the
too.
realistic way, if we're really concerned about that, which I get it, let's go fund by fund. Because
I'm concerned about
that's
the,
where the difficulty happens. It's not
I'm
the
concerned
whole-
about the housing opportunities. You're saying that if we take the money out of housing opportunities, we cannot put it back.
No, you can't.
Yeah, sure you can.
I thought you just said that for next year, we can't put that back in, that amount.
It's been processed.
No?
No.
I misunderstood you.
I think when we're talking about, he was talking about the marketing fund.
Well, that part I understood, but I'm backing up a couple of paragraphs there when you talked about the housing
So
opportunities.
This year, you guys spent $3.2 million in the budget for housing. We've spent, I don't know where we're at today, but I'm gonna say $3 million because the project's buttoning it up. We've spent.
But that's for renovations.
That's the same source of funds, the same type of projects, it's the same approach. And so if we don't spend, let's just say the project ends up being $3.1 million, and we don't put that 100,000 that's left over, won't go into next year without a council action with an ordinance in February.
So where does that money go?
It goes back into the savings account at that point. What this document does, this resolution does tonight, is it gives staff authority to spend. Without
Okay.
that authorization, we can't spend it. So what Council Circus is recommending is we reduce the authorization from 200,000 to 100,000.
There's another option that just came to my mind. If in fact we up here are in line with the concept of balancing the total town budget revenue to expenditure, we can direct staff to come up with, to make the changes that are necessary to do that. And we don't have to be the ones to sit here and drill down this far or further to figure out what to do.
Correct.
So, I mean, I put that out on the table to my fellow counselors.
Well, here's the deal. So we've got 2.8 million sitting there for opportunities, whether that be to look at new housing opportunities or land that might become available to start either purchasing or town-owned property. Is that correct?
Correct.
As I go, just boom, 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 yes, no?
Yes.
Then, if that be the case, I would support putting some money, so town is out there on the look for property and opportunities and perhaps funding some of those studies that are necessary that we've looked at before that we never did because it costs so much money to do the employee housing. And then in February, or we know we've got the placeholder, and then come out back with a proposal, knowing that we as a council are very supportive of housing as a top priority. And it may not be 2.8, it could be 3.5, it could be 4 million, we don't know. It's all those unknowns about something you don't know and approving something you don't know. What do you guys wanna do? But I can tell you between the two, 2.8 and the 600, you get 3.4 right there, and you take the other thing down a little bit, and it's balanced.
You're not suggesting cutting the 600 from the budget for the 800 megahertz?
What?
No.
No, that's a no,
Okay,
no-go.
I was just making sure that I understood.
But you got 2.8 and pull that down, I'm sorry, my math was wrong on that one.
Well, I'm just gonna say, I'm really not a numbers person. I've done the best I can, even got together with you to really understand this. I understand it better. But I do know I don't wanna take any money out of housing. I wanna keep everything we can, and whatever opportunity that we could do for housing. I kinda agree with Bob, in regards to marketing, if we could roll that money over, if they haven't spent $100,000 of it, we could roll it over and we could always get it back to make sure marketing keeps working at the pace they're working, and that's how I feel about it. I think it's pretty simple for me. I don't want to take any money out of housing.
But the question is this, so are you comfortable with a deficit budget, or do you want a balanced budget? Because I think what it really comes down to is, as a group, do we want a balanced budget, or are we comfortable with a deficit?
And the only caveat to that, if you define balanced budget as spending dollars from our savings account, then it's
Yeah,
balanced.
well, that's right, I mean, it is,
We're not borrowing
no,
any
but
money.
We're
I'm
not borrowing
talking
money.
about an operational,
It's savings and checking.
an operational balance.
We've spent less than we brought in consistently over the last couple of years, and we're dipping into the
So let me
savings.
just answer that question. The question is, I'm comfortable with a balanced budget.
And you want about, are you balanced?
I'm balanced.
Okay, where are you guys?
I'm comfortable with the budget as is.
Melissa?
I'm with Bill.
Okay.
Oh, you're in the middle. In more ways than one.
Well, I feel like mayonnaise on a piece of bread right now. Tell you the truth, the question is when you would be doing the housing, look-see.
Well, again, Marky, you know, if in fact you're comfortable, you would prefer the balanced budget, we can direct staff to find it, to make recommendations for the changes.
Well, I think it's just kicking the can down the road right now.
And taking that money out of the marketing doesn't make it, I mean, you're talking about changing it by 100,000. So,
Okay. I'm going to move resolution, I'm going to go ahead and move the resolution. I'm pretty darn comfortable right now. I understand, quite frankly, it's checking and savings. Got the money here, it's going to move up here,
right.
or vice versa. If it doesn't get spent, it goes back down there. I mean, so I'm going to move resolution number 32, series of 2016. Do I have a second?
Second.
For approval, just to be clear.
Yeah, for approval. I have a second. Other comments?
I don't disagree with Counselor Circus. I think that in years 2 and 3, we need to really take a hard look at where we're going. And the CIP projects are going to be the major concern. I'm comfortable with the budget as is, but I think we do need to be conscious of
Bill,
where we
Bill.
are in the next couple of years.
Okay, thank you very much, Bill. Do I have any comments from the public?
Again, just as you said, checking and savings. I'm in favor of a balanced budget. I'm also in favor of moving the resolution forward. But moving the resolution forward, does that mean I'm not in favor of the balanced budget?
I mean,
No.
I-
No,
that was
no,
our
because
notes.
I mean, I'm kind of confused here,
think-
honestly.
No.
Here's, balanced budget.
Because we're talking about checking and savings. It's all our money to begin with.
We've got it all in hand. We're
Right.
not borrowing any money, so we're taking it from a savings account. And I think we're gonna put words in Counselor Circus's mouth. By taking money from the savings account and putting it in the checking, he's considering that not being balanced. I think by the other saying, hey, we've saved this money, we have the right to spend the money we've saved, you've been fiscally responsible in the past, let's take advantage of that and make some investments. And by taking that from savings and putting it in checking, that's balanced.
Okay.
How you want to define balance is what's going on here.
That's exactly right.
that's a very good way to
It's
describe
very-
it.
That's exactly right.
Very accurate.
Thank you.
Okay, Clint, one other thing before we go up to a vote. When do we look at the budget again? Is that in February, or is it,
We anticipate bringing back to you in February and updating all the numbers, because we won't know until January, right? We get
Close
the
out.
numbers? Close out in January, so it'd be late in February. We'll say, here's how the year ended out, here's the closeout looked like, here's where the final expenditures were on whatever projects, and asking, that goes through an ordinance process to relook
and
at.
I think what would be helpful, and I would suggest we direct staff to do so, is on every one of these projects is a status update.
Yep.
What has been spent, what has not been
That's-
spent,
you will
et
get that.
cetera, and status.
That's the plan.
Kind of on that note, but I'd like to propose that that the council request a review by the FAB of the capital improvement and capital equipment programs mid-year. And then so that we can determine, get a better idea of what we've gotten finished, what we haven't finished, and in case of the housing, what the thoughts are.
Well, housing's gonna be your issue, right?
Yeah, but, okay.
But you're just looking for, make sure they have a status update, understand where we are, and I'm gonna put words in your mouth again one more time and I'll stop, I promise. But the concern I'm hearing is, let's not allocate more money than we can really spend. Let's be realistic in what can get done.
That's exactly right.
And I get it, and that, when we can do that, I understand that, I think that's a fine direction, and we can make sure that
Okay.
happens.
Okay.
And I don't want to waste anybody's time, but excuse me for asking for those explanations. So sorry to hold everybody up, but I needed to be clear on it.
That's fine.
Okay.
Very, very good. Very good question, because I want clarity here, because we're not
Okay.
talking about 2 cents.
No.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on resolution number 32 of 2016. All in support, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Passed unanimously.
So that was the easy one.
Now we need to break. No.
We're not going to take a break because, we're not going to take a
That
break.
one.
Okay, let's move on. Let's see, I've got so many pieces of paper in front of me, I
I
don't
know,
know.
it's a little ridiculous.
Okay, hold on, I've got to find my agenda now. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, that's page 8. Let me move all this crap out of the way. Excuse my French. And we are, where did I put that agenda? Okay, comp plan. I know it's comp plan. Thank you, Julianne.
Make yourself comfortable. Come on up, join the fun.
Come on up. All of our colleagues are here. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our town council. I'm glad you're so excited about our budget. I saw you, I like phasing over, but glad you're here.
Okay, Madam Mayor, if I may introduce Brian Wright and Sandrine Thibault. Got it right this time. They are the consultant team that we have hired, representing the firm Town Planning and Urban Design Collaborative, TPUDC, out of Franklin, Tennessee. And as you recall, we solicited proposals from a lot of firms. We got 6 proposals in. We interviewed 4 teams, 3 of which were local teams. And TPUDC rose to the top. It was a unanimous selection by the committee, which included 3 of our planning commissioners, the mayor, and staff members. So we're pretty excited about the energy that they brought, especially at 4 o'clock in the afternoon after a long day of interviewing. And we felt that it was the right time to take a new, fresh set of eyes on our comprehensive plan update process. So our consultants are here to help us with kicking off the comprehensive plan process, which will actually, it's already begun because some of you have been interviewed. And they have scheduled a lot of interviews over the course of the next several days, interviewing planning commission members as well as some other community members as we can slot them accordingly. Our big kickoff meeting for the whole community is at 5 o'clock tomorrow evening, and it will be here in this room. We expect it to last about an hour and a half. The goal is for the community to be able to learn more about the process and to share their thoughts and ideas. As far as updating our plan and seeing, having their voices be heard in the process. I did share with you a copy of the Burlington, Vermont plan that this firm put together. As you can see, it's a little different looking than what we've seen traditionally with the town's comprehensive plans. It's a lot easier to read. We hope that people will, if our plan is consistent with that it's easier to read and folks will, use it on a more regular basis than, using it the 1 or 2 times when, we're having to compare a land use case with consistency with the comprehensive plan. So, so that, I wanted to make sure that you saw that document because the link wasn't working on your packet. We have firmed up some dates. I wanted to make sure that you and the community are aware that our consultants will be back January 10th to hold a visioning session with the community. And we don't have times set out yet, but please put it on your calendars, as well as the 5 days from February 23rd to the 28th, which is when the really hands-on, roll-up-your-sleeves, Planapalooza is going to be scheduled. So we hope that you are able to make part or both of those meetings as they come up, because they're really important for the community. What we wanted to ask you tonight is we had suggested that, as we did with the poster, as we did with the CCP process, that there be a community group, a steering committee, we're calling it a think tank, that would be composed of both decision makers, planning commissioners, council members, and other community members who are interested to really serve as a sounding board as we move forward with ideas and thoughts and potential policies that might come forward. And we wanted to know if it would be okay to let the community know that at the meeting tomorrow night when we do this kickoff, and let folks know that we do want to have your participation. This think tank would be really helpful for us in our decision-making overall, and you can apply online, is what our goal is, if you want to serve in that capacity. And so before we did that, we wanted to check in with you and make sure you thought that was a good approach, so that we could get more members of the community, whether they're listening tonight, they can't be there tomorrow. We will put something on the website for those who aren't listening in tonight or won't be able to be at the meeting tomorrow, just to know that there is that opportunity to be part of that process.
Julianne?
Yes.
How do we accommodate second homeowners who want to be involved in the think tank?
Well, we have, we've actually, on the application form, should you decide to proceed with that, we did indicate, that we wanted people to let us know if they're second homeowners or not, so that we can accommodate. With go-to meetings, I think that it's fairly easy for people to be able to attend a meeting, even if they, even if it's just virtual at this point. So we are set up to be able to do that if that's an approach for a member who would like to be able to participate on a regular basis.
Thanks.
So we want to get your feedback on that. And I would just also mention that, as I put in the staff report, we're hoping to do kind of a small mini-series of a couple of speakers that would really focus on some ideas of community building and making the most of what we have. And we're hoping to be able to kick that off. And that would probably happen between the time that our consultants are here as we move through the process. Again, just more education, more engagement of the community, more opportunities to hear and listen and be a part of decision-making about the future of the community. So that would be part of it as well. I did also want to let you know that, as you know, the 2010 plan had identified 7 comprehensively planned areas.
Right.
We've looked at those CPAs that are referred to. We have included in the proposal that we had solicited that we would want to have more study of at least 3 of those. And those would be the entryway, the mall, and the Snowmass Center area. And we have arranged for interviews for some of the people who would be involved in any potential redevelopment or whatever of those areas as well. So we think that that gives us a good overall help with what the vision should be for those particular areas, what is going to be acceptable for the community in terms of what they want to see happen in those areas, and how we can fill out our community, since we really are much more community-based than we are necessarily resort-based when we were first born. So that's really all that we wanted to present to you. They do have a couple slides that they'd like to share. And then we'd like to get your feedback on the think tank option.
Thank you very, very much, and welcome, Brian and Sandra. Good to see you again. The show's all yours.
All right. So if it's okay, I'll stand up.
Yeah, well, you gotta have a mic.
Okay.
Okay, you know how it
This
is.
is live, right?
We're
Okay.
live now.
Right. Energy sitting down is hard, so I'll have to do the energy thing. Hopefully my clicker is going to reach this far. So I have a few slides. So I just want to get you guys up to speed. I know Madam Mayor was at the interview, but the rest of you weren't, so I'm going to do an abbreviated version of that, so you'll know what you're getting yourselves into. So anyway, so we have a great team. It's not just TPDC. It's also Riker Cunningham, Tool Design Group, and City Explained are the rest of our team. And you'll be seeing various team members during the visioning and the Planapalooza and then subsequent events after that. Just so you know, yes, I'm from the Nashville area, Franklin. So this is my living laboratory over here. This is what Franklin looks like. If you've not been to the South, it's lovely. But we also work all over the country. And so we get to see all kinds of cool things. get to learn lots of new ideas and bring those to the places we work. This isn't our first time in Colorado, thankfully. I'm glad to be back because we love working here, except for the humidity. It's from the south. It's not quite the same. But we do great documents. Our team has worked on some amazing plans. You've seen the Burlington document we did. Tool worked on the Boston Complete Streets Guide, which is an amazing document as well. Obviously, Boston and Snowmass Village, not quite the same. So we have to apply the lessons we learn in these places and understand what is important here. So our approach is a little bit different than what you've seen, not just our documents, but how we go about getting there. We take a real holistic planning model. We understand that the entire community has these sort of different constituent elements: the natural environment, provisioning, regulations, built environment, and each one of these has subcomponents to it. And if you pull on any one of these things, it has an effect all the way across the network here. And so once we recognize what those connections are, we're able to come up with innovative solutions. But until you recognize those connections, you're just sort of shooting in the dark. So some plans that are done, comp plans, you might have seen, they're sort of state-of-the-union snapshots, and their relevance fades, like the fashion and pictures. Some are projections in the future, and they're seeing in the crystal ball, and consultants come and tell you, here's what's going to happen. And if anybody tells you they know what's going to happen, they're lying. So don't believe it. We're not going to tell you we know what's going to happen. But what we're going to do is base what we do on fundamental guiding principles, things we know work throughout human habitation, things that real people like, second homeowners, as well as people who lived here their entire lives, as well as those who are coming just for the weekend or for the week or whatever. And so these, we're going to have to take a different look, though, because a lot of places we work don't have any resort components to it. They only have the community side. They don't have the great amenities that you do. So we're going to have to look, and we're already setting out to find what are the best examples around the country of people who are doing the resort side of things really, really well, and how can we apply those, but also the community components that we know work really well as well. So our approach, a lot of comp plans, it's really data heavy, but we all know that data starts off with stacks and then turns into piles, and the next thing you know, you're drowning in data. And the average person who picks up the comp plan has no interest in looking at it because it's a bunch of pie charts and graphs and just stuff that how many times did Clint go in and say, well, let me tell you in English what this means in the budget, right? So we want to stick to the English side of things. That's really what it is. So we take the pie charts and graphs and make it sexy, infographics or what people call it these days. But more important than the data itself is the insight. What did we learn from that data that we can actually do something with? Actionable items that can then move forward into the comp plan. One of the key components that we focus on, and one of the reasons we're really successful around the country, is that we work hard to keep this scene from ever happening where we work. This is not one of our projects. This is what we call apathy. People are tired of planning. This is one of our projects. This is what we do. We try to get the seats filled, standing room only, and get people excited. We do that through a number of ways. We have all these different tools that we've created that you'll start to become more familiar with, to teach and inform, to collaborate and get feedback, as well as create the buy-in we need. And we know that, not everybody is going to show up to a meeting, in town hall, so we want to focus online as well. We're thinking about like seasonal employees and stuff too. That's a great tool for somebody who might not show up, or they're at work because they've got 3 jobs and whatever, or they're out skiing or doing those kind of things. And so we were thinking, just a small example, we were brainstorming, a local business could say, hey, you guys, go in the back of the computer and spend 5 minutes on the survey there real quick, take turns, and so we're getting that input. But we also like to meet people where they are. Here we're going to farmers markets, and in the South we have barn parties and things, and not really, we do other things that are more sophisticated, but potlucks and picnics and all these kinds of things. But it all culminates in the Planapalooza process. The Planapalooza is basically, our team is going to come, we're going to set up our studio, our design studio on site. We'll be here for 5 days. There will be fun things happening. This is a chocolate and wine party. Here you have citizens drawing on maps, rolling up their sleeves, working with us. The designers are designing, working on the specific plans, doing presentations, and it's all very dynamic and very fluid and very interactive. So people can come in whenever they want. We're open as long as anybody wants to come in. And this is what happens. People get excited about it, and they come and they make these posters. And we expect the community to make these posters here too, because you're going to really love it, I'm sure. So the way that we go about creating the plan is, rather than looking at a future land use map, we think about conservation and growth, where you want to grow, where you want to conserve. Here you have grown a lot already, and there's not all that much land just sort of sitting around ready to be developed. So we want to be smart about that and build on what you've already done in your prior plans. And so you've identified the different areas, and we want to look at the CPAs. And so this is an example in a different type of mall. But this was a mall in another community, and the mall was dead. And they said, well, we'd like to see what we could do differently with that mall in the future. And so we showed them how they could redevelop the mall and create an actual village where people wanted to be. And it was really exciting for the community to see that. But most importantly, we want to make sure that this plan does not sit on what we call the $1 million shelf. Every community we go to has a shelf where all the plans that they've commissioned over the years and they budgeted for, and they take the plan and they sit it on the shelf and never look at it again. And so we want to make sure that our plans don't go there. So in the front of some of our plans, we say, warning, this plan should not be filed. It should be used and on people's coffee tables. We do that by making amazing and beautiful documents. Not all of them are in this magazine format. We did another cool one in Lewiston, Maine, that is more of a traditional format. They weren't ready for the Plan BTV style document, but it was a great document nonetheless, and still sexy for a comp plan. But this is how we accomplish the goals, and we're going to ask you guys to do this with us and think different, stealing a line from Apple. It's just, you can't accomplish great things if you just keep thinking the same way you were. So we're going to push you guys, and you're going to push back, and you're going to get excited, and you're going to push us, and it's going to be a give and take. But this is kind of the main message that we go through. Sandrine mentioned, Julian mentioned that we have these different processes here going, and they're on these dates. This is a poster that's out around town. You guys have done a great job of getting the posters out, and so we hope that everybody's going to come and bring their friends and family. We promise it's not going to be a typical, well, you guys may do a great job here already, but some communities we work in that will be unnamed have boring planning processes, and this won't be that. So anyway, we hope that you all come, and we're happy to chat with you about any questions you have. So that was 30-something slides in about 5 minutes.
Do you have questions for Brian, anybody? How about the
I have
community?
questions.
Okay, go.
My one question has to do with the Planapalooza being in February when the weather sometimes is not great. And I mean, have you ever done it in a place like this where there's crazy amounts of snow and you never know what's going to happen? Are you going to be able to get people out of their houses to come to these things?
Yeah, we have. And we, in Burlington, so one thing we probably didn't say was before Sandrine worked for me, she was our client in Burlington. She was the long-range planner in Burlington, so she hired us. So we did their process, their week-long process in, was it January? February?
It was in January. It was minus 40 degrees that week.
Yeah, and so it snowed, it's not like snow here, but it snowed a good bit, and people came. It was just like they were excited, and we were in a good location, so they were out and about anyway, and they would stop by. So I'm not worried about that. We're also working in West Fargo, North Dakota, and so I'm determined to do some serious, like, snowy weather planning processes with those guys. But it's a valid concern.
Well, it's
for
just
sure.
like in your pictures, you show like cookouts and all these things
Oh,
that are
right.
outside. And
No, we have a polar bear plunge here, so, like in the duck
Exactly.
pond by the rodeo, right? So
And where are you going to be set up?
we're still working that out. We're trying to figure out what's a great location, so we're open.
Okay. And then can I ask about this think tank? Just how many people you're talking about? And I know you said people would apply online. Is it a situation where we have to like interview them, or we're just going to have a discussion and see how many people apply and then appoint them?
Let Brian tackle his 10 cents on this one.
Yeah, so, well, let me just tell you why think tank and not steering committee first. What we find is that so often in communities there is a steering committee, and everybody who's not on the steering committee feels somehow left out, like they're missing something, or this group has undue influence on a plan. So the idea of the think tank is really just we literally come and say, here are the 6 questions of the month. Will you help us think through these things? Not tell us what needs to go in the plan. Please review the document and edit the plan before the public sees it. It's really an open and transparent process is the general idea. What we found is the more people on any sort of committee, the more difficult it is to get through. So let's just say we have 6 questions and there are 25 people in the committee, and each person wants to answer one of those 6 questions. It's like, it just starts to become, the meetings are 2 or 3 hours long, and it's not fair for the people who volunteered. So we try to, have it be a reasonable size, and have a great mix of people. And, you could have 10 people, and if you have a good mix, you really kind of,
So what's your average size think tank?
I mean, I like to keep it less, out of the double digits, so 10 or less is what we typically do, but we've done bigger. We had one where there was like 17 on there, I think. The meetings are long, but works.
Do you ever try to do one with kids? A
We
think
have
tank.
kids as part of the process, so more Planapalooza oriented, because, you know, the think tanks like past their bedtime and stuff sometimes.
Right.
So.
Unless you're my kids. Okay.
Julianne, just a quick question. The start date of the Planapalooza is, I think, during President's Week. Is that,
Thursday.
has that been checked against the school calendar?
Yes, it has.
Thank you.
Do we need to determine the number tonight or the process for the think tank?
I think if you guys say, yeah, you're good, I think the one thing we want to do is put it out to the whole community and see who's interested. And then we'll see how many, if we get 6 applications back, it's really easy. If we get 30 back, then it's going to be more difficult for you guys. But
I would prefer we send it out, you know, see what the fishnet catches, and then I hope it's a ton of people. I mean, I've been talking it up, and I know you guys have been talking it up.
Brian, you had mentioned, briefly about the guy that's got 2 or 3 jobs and didn't have time for the feedback. I assume you're aware of our housing situation where mostly everybody that works up here lives down valley.
Right.
So to capture that thought for those people who are leaving the valley, because they want to go home, the roads are white out, and it's white knuckle ride.
Right.
Do you have a plan to do that?
That's why I thought doing it while they're at work. It's like, they're going to be at work anyway. It's not a special trip. It's not extra time, and everybody likes an extra 5-minute break if their boss is willing to give it to them. The other thing we've been thinking about too is doing some little pop-ups, kind of, here and there at random locations. So either, in the entrance at the market or, those kind of things. So where you find people, like we're really open. So if you guys have any ideas too, I mean, the thing that's interesting is like we get into coming up with cool stuff, and coming up with different ideas, but it's so localized sometimes, especially in a place like this. This is, every place we work is like, oh, we're so unique, and it's like, we see about the same issues in most places, but it's not every day that we're working in a place like this, and this really is unique for us in a lot of ways, and so I'm really excited about having something new and different to think. I'm getting to think different just because of the circumstances of the community here. So if you guys have some specific ideas about that, just let us know, and we're keeping a list of
Yeah,
things.
I think that's a big part of typically our process is not only do we ask people to come to us, but we'll try to go to them as well. So if you can help us find ways to do that, that's great. I think another big piece of reaching that population is also online, and we've had great success with different types of online tools where people can, they can drive home and sit in front of the computer at 10 o'clock and still provide their input and have meaningful feedback to give us into the process. Because we realize, we know that over 50% of an adult population will never attend any public meetings. So we have to find a different way to reach them. And we've done that very successfully with online tools as well. That's another way.
So, any other questions?
I'm interested to know, especially since you came from Burlington and joined his team after this, what was the number one thing that you learned out of that process?
That's a great question. I need to be careful with the answer. Or I might get in trouble. I might get in trouble. I think what came out of the Burlington process was, and what made me want to work with the firm, honestly, was the energy that they brought to the process and the excitement that they were able to build in the community. Burlington is a community that is known for doing a lot of planning and having a very involved citizenry. And this process was like none we've ever done before. And it was because of what they brought to the table. And everybody was so excited about our process. We had over 30,000 people that participated, in one way or the other, online presence or in meetings or during the Planapalooza, different ways. And ultimately, once the plan got to City Council, it was unanimously adopted the first night it got there. So that was very telling of the level of engagement and the level of consensus that the community was able to sort of come around just by the process that TPDC did. So I think that was sort of that was our big ha-ha moment in Burlington.
And Brian, were there any surprises for you in the process in Burlington?
Let's see, I hadn't anticipated the college students coming in at 2 a.m. in the morning on their way home from the bar, so that was surprising. But
Into this charrette studio.
It was a good surprise.
And and I'll add to that because before the charrette, Brian told us, the local planners, he said, tell people that they can come in, like, it's open studio, they can come in anytime. And so we told people they could come in anytime. Well, people actually came all day long and into the evening, and he was very surprised at that. He was like, what, people are here? And I was like, well, you told us to invite them. So, yeah,
Just
they're
that
coming.
late.
Ask for.
But as long as we're there working. I think that, well, I'll just tell you what I've learned just over the years, not just in Burlington, but in general, that people are tired of doing things the usual way, the process and the documents. I mean, the reason why we've been successful is that people will sit down and read the entire, like that Lewiston plan. I mean, it's like 200-page, it's way bigger than that Burlington plan. And people sit down and read it cover to cover. Sometimes it takes them through over the weekend, but they'll take the time to do it. And we had one woman who was working at she worked at the front desk in one of the departments. And she said, you know, I've worked here for 20 years. I've never been interested in living in the city. That I live in the next town over, but I want to be a part of this, and I'm going to move here now to be part of it. You know, so those are the kinds of things when you see that, and you see like there's something wrong with how it's been done over the years. When people like so many plans are the shelf that I showed you, the $1 million shelf was hers. That was her shelf in Burlington, and you know they have some cool stuff going. They're very progressive and very excited and engaged, but they like want to show up and participate, and then no one looks at the plan. So you've got to look at the plan has to be captivating so that it's a living document that you all use on a regular basis. It's sitting up there with you every night.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Well, we look forward to y'all being here, and tomorrow night, I'm sure there's gonna be a good turnout.
So you said y'all. Wait a minute. Where are you from?
I'm from southern Indiana. But I've done a lot of consulting work in the South, particularly Alabama.
You're just trying to make me feel at home.
I can give you all. Careful.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
See you later, Brian. Okay, well, this ought to be a lot of fun, right, guys? So to all of you who are watching out there in the community, come on down here. It starts at 6.
5 to 6:30.
And someone told me last night that they were so excited that we put the ending time on a meeting. So that's great. Okay, come on up. Hi, Dave.
Hi, council.
Okey-dokey, EOTC. Okay, we have a meeting on Thursday night at 4. Everybody's got it on their calendar.
Yep.
Is everybody gonna be here? One.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna be unanimous.
Thank you,
Okay.
council, that's great to know. I apologize a little bit for a snafu with the memo to you. I tried to give you a little update on a couple of things that are coming out. Obviously, you're adopting the EOTC budget for 2017, and in there, there's going to be a couple of additions that came out, if you have your packets with you, that came out on Friday. And to
This is,
Yeah, I know, but here's a request. If it's possible, I'd like to see the packet through iLegislate. Is there any possibility of doing that?
we have a hard, we'd love to say yes,
Okay,
because it's not our packet, it's not our technology. We wanted to get it on Thursday so we can get it, it's,
all right,
we will work towards it.
okay. Thank you, Rhonda.
So sorry about that, but there are a couple of things that you should be aware of going into this meeting. There are 3 kind of budget or request items that aren't automatically included in the EOTC budget. As you may recall, the no fare subsidized service between Aspen and Snowmass is now included annually in the EOTC budget. The 3 main items that are coming to you in this meeting, one will be WeCycle is going to approach the EOTC with a request for $175,000 in funding, operational funding for the WeCycle program, targeting a number of different components throughout the valley. It's hard to react to that number at the spur of the moment, given that there's maybe other priorities that we might consider more important than the We Cycle program. For example, say spring, summer, and fall, we'd like to know, well, what would it cost to get 15-minute service during BRT operation in spring, summer, and fall, and what would that cost compared to $175,000 in We Cycle program? It's not that we have anything against the We Cycle program. We believe strongly in making a strong connection in the first and last mile of a commuter's trip on mass transit. It's very important. Just to give you context, the original transit planners would talk about a quarter-mile sphere radius around a bus stop, and they'd say that I could capture those people because they could walk. Well, if you take it to a half mile, then you can say I just doubled or more the number of residences that I can capture with this bus stop. And if you take that to a mile, it becomes a staggering number, particularly for like the BRT stations. So it does have some merit, it does have some weight, but it's
It's a seasonal service.
a seasonal service as well.
And so just on the We Cycle, just a couple things. So David and I were able to meet with the executive director on Friday. And when we talked to her, it was, one, as David said, we're supportive, we understand. But we said the ask was big, and they've come back today and they said they were going to probably ask for half, because this was a 2-year ask. They might ask for 1 year and then 1 year on Thursday. So we should expect that they're asked to be different on Thursday. I just learned this late this afternoon, sorry. But I think really the bigger issue is, and I think David just hit the nail on the head, is that the We Cycle, by EOTC paying for, is an increase to level of service. And that's great, and we should all be supportive of that. But really what we should be looking at too is to make sure that we're looking at increases in level of service for the village, not just for Aspen and Basalt. And so if we can be supportive of their increased level of service, because We Cycle serves those communities, doesn't serve it here yet, can we ask EOTC to look at increased levels of service for the village as well, whether it's increased headways, whether it's better connections to the BRT, whatever it is. If we want to play with them and we're going to ask them to play with us, we think, to ask for that maybe come February, how can we get that level of service improved up here if we're going to play ball on this one?
Have they given us any numbers at all on that, or has that request gone to them?
It hasn't. We would ask you guys to kind of bring that up at the
That's not a
discussion.
problem.
I mean, when we looked at it, it was a big number. We thought, all right, it makes sense. All the transportation initiatives are there, but it kind of comes down to that equity or fairness point of view. Is like, how do we make sure that our level of service is being commensurate with the other communities' level of service?
Right.
And we were very honest with her on Friday.
Yeah, Berta's great.
Very great conversation.
Right.
And that's what I think part of their ask is going to change on Thursday. And, the ask really is going to be for RAFTA to say, well, what would it cost to bring our level of service up, whether it's our off-season service gets improved from hourly on like what it is right now on the weekends. Maybe where is it we want to see that increased level of service? Obviously during the ski season, it's pretty great, but maybe off-season we want to look at that. We would need to give some direction that way.
Well, there's also a request to RAFTA for We Cycle above and beyond the EOTC request.
Correct.
I'm going to look that up very quickly. The point is, and I've talked to Myrta about this multiple times, and I'll be glad to restate it on Thursday. I've asked her about what we can do in Snowmass, given the fact that we have vertical challenges with the bike. And the second, number 2, was the fact that the rentals are basically 1 hour.
Half hour.
Half hour, yeah, that's right, half hour. And then the third issue is, is that realistic for a We Cycle program unless you have the bike stations all over, and it's seasonal. It operates 3 to 4 months a year.
I actually met with her last week.
Yeah.
And talked about Snowmass and how we could make it work here. And some of the things I discussed with her were, okay, if someone's at the center or they get off, let's say they're hiking on the rim trail and they end up all the way at the top and they want to get back down to Town Park, then there could be a bike station there and they could take it down to Town Park. I mean, because one of the things I talked to Clint about too was just that, obviously for most people it's going to be easier to go downhill than it is going to be able to go uphill on those bikes.
Because they're not e-bikes.
Right. I mean, there is this whole thing with the electric bikes, but putting that aside, I think the downhill would be easier, and just for maybe some of those, I call them kids, but the people that work on the mountain that live in the Club Commons or wherever they are, that to go from the Club Commons to Town Park, even though it doesn't seem like a long walk, to them it might be faster to catch a bus or do whatever if they could hop on a bike there and get over to Town Park to catch the bus. So I did talk to her just about some of the smaller jaunts in Snowmass, especially for those who don't have other means of transportation.
Yeah, and I also spoke to her,
Yeah, we've all talked
and
to her.
we've all spoken with her. But, you know, we talked about this concept of going downhill. Well, the other part of that is getting the bikes back uphill so that somebody else could ride it downhill,
Right,
which creates some logistical issues in and of themselves.
right.
So, okay, what else?
Okay, moving on. Staff had brought to you that the remote parking down at Brush Creek and 82 at the Intercept lot. The county and city were successful in securing a FLAP grant in support of that project. That was some 3.9 million. The FLAP grant was for 1.9 million, so 2 million will be asked of the EOTC in 2018. This is more kind of teeing it up and giving you a heads up of, well, when that project is going to move forward. There is also, Aspen and Pickens County are interested in moving forward with the Buttermilk Underpass. And as you can recall from the ABC Underpass, that's about an $8 million project, which now doesn't have any grant funding associated with it. They are proposing $800,000 for design and development costs, engineering costs in 2018. So it's not a 2017 budget item, but it's going to be a subject for discussion with the budget at that time. That project, probably its biggest impact will be its capital expenditure in 19, probably, or 20, and that could be a game changer to the reserve balance for the EOTC funding.
Yep,
And the payback to Snowmass's share.
it's a nada.
It's
I think
So-
we have to be very, very cautious.
So those are the three big items that'll be on the agenda. You will receive some updates on the Upper Valley Mobility Study. They'll be pointing out some technologies to you. RAFTA will be providing a little bit of an update on their operations, as well as if you're not aware, the Basalt Underpass is under construction now as well. So those are some of the big highlights coming out of the meeting.
Dave, real quick question on the Basalt Underpass. Are they going, I noticed they cleared the Cottonwoods, are they going right directly across, or are they going on an angle? 'Cause they're working on both sides of the roads, maybe they're just moving
Well,
utilities around.
What they're planning on doing is, my understanding is that they're gonna shift either the up valley or the down valley lanes around the project. So that's why it's kind of expanding a little bit in its scope. But J.R. Fielding will be giving you an update at the time, and you can probably ask the detailed questions of him, because he's closely associated with it.
Okay.
Thank
Should
you,
be a
council.
very
Good
interesting-
luck. I'll be there with you.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay. I'll find that number here in a minute. Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to Building 6. We've got people who have been waiting. Andy, come on up. I see Harry, I see Mr. Schuster. Welcome, Andy. Hey, Julianne, you want to introduce our guest and the topic for this evening?
Sure. I'm actually very happy to have them here tonight, and I'm sure that you are very happy to meet them. As you know, there were several agreements that were part of the approval for the Base Village PUD amendment, and the Building 6 agreement specifically had language in it that said that the town council needs to provide comments to the developer so that they can then turn around and get some design work done by January 1st, so that we can be looking at an actual construction season, hopefully in 17. So that's why the team is here to chat with you at your last meeting before November 1st. So the idea is for us to be able to introduce the new partnership that the joint venture that is here. Andy Gunyon is representative of East-West Partners, and he'll be able to introduce everybody. But we are really wanting to get your feedback primarily on kind of the next pieces of this. Building 6, we absolutely need the feedback on, but I really feel that we can't talk about just Building 6 because Building 6 is related to our plaza and related to the Limelight. So that's why you're seeing other faces here, like Don. Harry Teague is here representing the design for what has been discussed as the potential Discovery Center in Building 6. So with that, I'll turn it over to Andy and let him proceed.
Thanks,
Andy,
Julianne.
welcome, but I hope tonight that you're clear as to what the ownership structure is, because nobody really understands it. And we saw some stuff over the weekend that came out by a realtor that was inaccurate.
Okay.
Appears inaccurate, but
Yeah,
go ahead.
be happy to clarify that.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, I'm Andy Gunning with East West. You probably remember me from about a year ago.
Yep, sure do.
And typically, a year ago, we were only under LOI, and typically we wouldn't announce a deal under LOI, but in a small community like this, in a high-profile project, it seemed appropriate to announce. But obviously, that one didn't come through a year ago, but we're now actually under contract, and we have a great partnership. Don Schuster's here representing Aspen Skiing Company, so our partnership is East West, Aspen Skiing Company, and KSL. And KSL was our partner last fall, as you may recall. But as we looked at the whole deal, it just seemed to make more sense to try and bring everything under one umbrella here to get this done effectively and make sure all the interests are aligned. So that's why we joined up with Aspen
Is it a
Skiing Company as
partnership or
well.
a joint venture, or that's
It'll be a LLC.
LLC? Okay.
Yeah, and as is typical in our development deals, East West is a minority equity partner, but we'll manage the project day to day, so we really invest the sweat equity in it. But we will be investing real significant money for us. But the two majority capital partners are Aspen Skiing Company and KSL,
Okay.
and they're both equal in the amounts they're investing.
And you're going to act as the CEO of the LLC?
Yeah, I don't know what
whatever
my
they call you.
official title will be, managing partner, something like that.
Okay. I can't wait to see your business card.
Yeah, it hasn't been formed yet. So yeah, we're under contract now. We're working towards closing in December. There's still a number of things that need to come together, but it looks like we're on track for that, and we'll keep everyone posted if that looks like it's going to be delayed or whatever. But because the timing here got so compressed, the transaction took so long to come together, that we're effectively starting to transition in now, even though we haven't closed yet, because there's things that need to be done, like designing Building 6. So that's why you see me here instead of somebody from Related. So the primary purpose tonight, as Julianne mentioned, is to review Building 6 again, so that you guys are able to provide comments back by this November 1st date. And we'll have Harry and Gabe here present the details on that in a second. And I'm a little out of the loop in terms of the process you guys have been through with Building 6 previously and what the last version you saw was. I think these guys are more up to date with that. But I think there are some tweaks from what you've seen before, so these guys will walk you through all that. Before they do that, I think, obviously Building 6 is the town's building, but I think it might be helpful if we give you a little bit of input from East West on what we'd ideally like to see and what our goals would be for that building and really for the plaza in general, because it's all kind of one composition. Our number one thing, and I think we're aligned with the town and the Discovery Center folks on this. I should mention we had a kind of a re-kickoff meeting for the Building 6 folks last week ahead of this to make sure we're all on the same page and understand where the design stands. And it sounds like all of our interests are aligned here. So activation of the plaza, especially in evenings. I think the beachfront, what we call the beachfront today, is really active after skiing as long as the sun is out. The minute the sun goes down, from what I've seen, people disappear. And so if we can create a more vibrant evening venue with this plaza and with Building 6, that's kind of goal number one for us. I think it also has the opportunity to become what I would call the community living room for Base Village, and hopefully even broader than Base Village for Snowmass in general, a place where second homeowners will want to hang out, where locals want to hang out, and obviously it's the focal point for guests. So if we can kind of bring all those people together in one spot, that would be ideal. It also should serve as a venue for kind of meaningful and fun activities for families. I mean, Snowmass is all about families, so And I think the base Discovery Center programming, as I understand it, it looks really cool and it's authentic and local and everything you would want. At the same time, I think we want to make sure that that building has some dynamic programming to it so that people have a reason to keep coming back. And so a few thoughts on how we do that, and again, Harry will be getting into this in more detail, but the ground level of that building, or the lower level, I think should have the meat of the Discovery Center content. And in that level, as you'll see, there's a theater contemplated, and obviously that theater's main purpose is to show content related to the Discovery Center, but if it can also show broader programming, ski movies, kids movies, and maybe even serve as a venue that can have small live shows, that would seem to be really cool. The upper level of Building 6 that opens out onto the plaza, in our opinion, should be pretty flexible with a variety of programming possibilities. Anything from art classes, community meetings, yoga classes, games, kind of keep that flexible. We don't know what the demand or the desires are gonna be there. The cafe, to me, is a really critical piece of this because it'll be something that keeps people there, and it should be something that's activated both mornings and evenings. So that obviously means coffee, hot chocolate, but also beer, wine, probably some light appetizers. And we've been starting to brainstorm the types of tenants that you may want in there. And again, it's the town's building, so it's your guys' call as to who goes in there, but Dawn and I may put some thoughts together and have some recommendations on who you might want to consider, and we'd be happy to help facilitate that as we move forward. Connectivity between Building 6 and this plaza really needs to be seamless, and I know Harry's really focused on that and has some cool ideas, but again, it should just kind of feel like one space, this plaza to the terrace, and try and minimize separation between the two. And we don't have a lot of space around the ice skating rink. In some of our other projects, we've done little cabanas around the ice skating rink where families can congregate and kind of have their own space, but this space is pretty tight, so I think this Building 6 terrace and the steps that Harry has contemplated will end up becoming kind of the gathering spot for where families will congregate to watch their kids on the ice skating rink, so that's critical. And to that end, in the next few weeks or so, we'll be doing a joint meeting with Oz and Harry's group to look at the details of the plaza, the details of Building 6, and make sure it's all integrating well together. So before Harry goes through Building 6, as Julianne mentioned, we wanted to just review the plaza, Limelight, and some of the base components there, because it should all work as one. So we just wanted to get you up to speed on some of the refinements we've made there. Starting at the back, there we go. So this is the PUD site plan that outlined the general framework for the plaza area, the ice skating rink, Building 6, Building 4, Limelight. And then here's some refined plan. I might flip back and forth on the plan.
Okay.
Can I step away from the mic? Do you need me on a mic?
You need a mic. Here.
Okay.
Well, you can use the,
You can probably tell what I'm talking about when I go through this, but so as we look at, oh yeah.
I've got the mouse too.
You see it?
Yeah.
Actually, that's probably best, Dawn. I don't know what I'm thinking.
I can use the mouse.
I'll just use the mouse. Thanks. So compared to the last one, we've flipped the location of the Limelight pool and lobby terrace. And we think this allows for better functionality and flow, especially when you look at what's going on the inside of the hotel. Previously, the pools were outside of the lobby, and the kind of dining, drinking terrace was outside of the fitness. So it was just backwards. And we looked at, could we flip it internally? For a variety of reasons, it doesn't really work. We're trying to preserve the lobby in an area where we have some decent ceiling height. So we think this is actually a pretty good solution here and allows for a more seamless transition kind of from lobby to that dining terrace here, and out onto the plaza. And this is hard to see here, but there's a series of fire pits contemplated in here, including one on the perimeter there. And this one on the perimeter would serve as a fire pit to the general public, and then obviously you have to have a barrier here for liquor licensing, so on the other side of that would be where you could have alcoholic beverages. So that's one move we've made here. You also notice the shape of the ice skating rink, went from kind of the traditional, I mean, that was really a rectangle, I guess, but oval to this more amoeba shape. And we talked about this with Harry and the group last week, and definitely open to feedback on this. I think the primary motivation here was to try and open up a little bit more space between Building 6 and the edge of the rink. But we may try and bring that back, because we know it's a small rink, and we're definitely not trying to shrink it for any purposes other than circulation. So if it makes more sense to, even if it keeps its irregular shape, to try and bring it back towards Building 6, we'll explore that some more.
What's the distance there, Andy?
Do you know, Harry?
Harry?
Just judging by the appearance, it's about 30.
30 feet?
And generally, approximately how much smaller is this shape than the original?
I have to get a measurement on it.
It's actually fairly similar to what was shown before. One of the things in the oval ice rink, we had actually had space along the 3 trees that are closer to Building 4 as circulation, and by moving this into this shape, we were able to basically bring it all the way up to this location. And so it's very similar in total area from an ice skating standpoint per se.
But again, we'll continue to look at it. We're kind of intrigued by the different shapes. It's not just a traditional oval that you see everywhere else. I don't ice skate, so I don't know if it's
If you've ever been in Denver to Belmar Shopping Center, south of 6th Avenue there, they have a seasonal ice rink very, very similar to this. During the summer, it's used for concerts and different things like that. It's off of Wadsworth and I think Alameda, right south of there, as a redevelopment facility and so forth, which we've looked at with this. Just an FYI in reference to this too is our ownership is part owners in Rockefeller Center, and we talked to the people who operate the ice rink at Rockefeller Center, and this is about 1,000 square foot smaller than the Rockefeller Center ice rink, is what they've indicated to us. And so they've been consulting with us on appropriate design and mechanics from this, per se.
So again, as we do this coordination session with Oz and Harry, we'll continue to look at that, and if it wants to expand closer to Building 6, we'll definitely go that direction as well. So I think those are the 2 main changes from a site plan plaza standpoint. And again, we view these changes as improvements to the overall experience here, and it's going to continue to be refined as we get into final design. And we're very focused again on making this as good as we can. So we'll continue to update you guys if we make additional changes, but welcome any comments you guys have on this as well.
So Andy, real quick, roof plan on Building 4, a little different on 216, updated site plan. Is that just a roof change, or is that an elevation change?
Building 4?
No, it's
In front of,
it's just different coloration.
Different,
It's
yeah.
right now shown as the,
it just looked like a different,
yeah.
little bit of different roof plan.
it's just shaded a little bit different.
Yeah, it's actually, I was wondering what the purpose of the Building 4 micro retail location slide was.
Yeah, I'll jump to that. So one of the things, again, we're trying to do is activate this as much as we can. And I think the programming's pretty good. Again, that the cafe tenant for Building 6 will be critical. Don's group does an excellent job with food and beverage out of the limelight. But from what we've seen in other resorts, it seems like it'd be cool to have a small retail shop that does, I don't know, ice cream, candy, that type of things for kids right on that corner there that's visible as you're walking past, but also feels part of the plaza. So that's a space that Don's agreed to kind of carve out of their ski shop
Sweet
there.
Life. Whoa,
Excuse me?
Sweet Life.
Now, quite frankly, what we've looked at, and I don't know if you've been in the winter season, on the mall in Aspen, close to where New York Pizza is, actually, there's a Snowmass-based ski instructor that runs a donut and hot chocolate shop in the morning there. It's you know, you come up there and you buy through a window. This is basically mimicking that, and the potential you could do ice cream and things like that in the afternoon. But it's a very small micro shop to be able to capture people as they go up, and for kids to be able to come here as we're ice skating and different things like that too.
And again, it's not an increase of retail, it's just a reallocation from ski shop to this. We're just trying to create something fun there for kids on the corner. In terms of the Limelight facade itself, Dawn can probably describe these changes better than I can, but here's some images from the PUD submission. A couple different angles there. And the updated rendering is a much worse rendering style. So you probably look at this and say, did the building get worse? But we're working on getting it re-rendered in this character. But the basic changes you see here are primarily, when we looked at the elevator core, and again, just trying to introduce as much fun and activity to this plaza as we can, we said, is it possible to put a climbing wall on this elevator stack? And it's been done in a couple other locations. There's an REI that I saw an image of that I sent to Dawn, and they looked at it and they think it's feasible. So not 100% on this component yet, and still need to get it figured out and priced out. But if it all works, we'd like to have that component there, and it kind of is a nice centerpiece with the plaza.
That'd be fun.
That's a great idea. You know, we reviewed this with Clint a long time ago, you know, just talking about how do we activate this plaza and make it more vibrant than, you know, what was there. So, you know, between the ice skating fountain during the summer, to have an indoor climbing, you know, facility, as well as the activities that might be on this plaza during the summer that, you know, and activate it with Building 6. You know, we've been talking about in the ice rink that we actually, in the concrete underneath, you know, put some things in there that, you know, are active play components if we wanted them during the summer, you know, for kids to play with and different things like that, and try to make it a much more active plaza experience.
The other improvements to the Limelight facade is, you can see in the prior, these columns were all timbers going up. And what we've done now is insert vertical stone elements here just to try and enrich in the facade a bit more. And again, this rendering's terrible, so we'll get you an improved one once we have it. But it hopefully gives you an idea of the materials that have been changing.
Can I ask a question? On the one drawing in the packet you gave us, it looks like where the pools are, that there's benches on the outside, like facing the skating rink.
Here?
Yeah. Those are benches, right?
That would be the intention, to have some stone benches on the outside of that wall so that people can sit.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if people are, you know, watching their kids ice skate. I mean, I know you were talking about the stairs, you know, on Building 6, and there's also that public fire pit area, which is great, but just more seating.
Yeah.
So I'm just making sure that's what it is.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Don, I'm not sure if this question is for you or for Andy, but in swapping the pool with the little patio, it looks like in one of these drawings that it's actually taking up more space. It's moving into the plaza. Did it move into the plaza when you did that?
It's a little encroachment in the plaza where the fire pit comes close to the ice rink there.
Here.
You know, and right in that area in order to do that.
Okay.
You know, but we intended that to be public on one side from that fire pit component to that. One of the things in this relocation standpoint, and we talked about it before, that, you know, in the, 2015 approval process, was, the doors can open up from the lobby area, and, we're going to have music like we have in Aspen with, 5 nights a week, summer and winter. But it was opening up on the pool as opposed to this. So as part of this opportunity, we suddenly have the opportunity to have outdoor seating, in the hopefully spring, as well as, summer, where that music can actually be heard inside or outside.
Yeah,
And try to keep it vibrant on the
that looks
plaza
like a
areas.
really good, a good, useful change that makes the space more usable, to me, both the inside and the outside space.
This also, haven't looked at the inside of this, but it actually also ties the fact that I've got a restroom right inside the pool with the fitness area for the hotel guests to be able to use.
Yeah, that's nice.
So it just, the flow works much better with this
Well,
flip-flop of that.
I mean, I know, I'm sure that both you and Andy are aware that the residents of the base village, Capitol Peak and Hayden, are very upset, concerned about the structure and the fees relative to the HOA and particularly to the plaza. So, personally, I like the way that has, that's drawing out. I guess I'd like to hear that the additional space for that patio, or the entire space for that patio and the pool are not part of the HOA square footage, if you will, for fees, but are covered under the Limelight.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
It'll
thank
be
you.
part of the Limelight Association, but it won't be part of
Right.
the master.
Thank you, Andy.
We're definitely aware of that.
I know you are.
Andy's been
I know
having
you are.
conversations with those homeowners associations. I think the other thing I'd just like to point out is the mechanical space for this ice rink that we've designed and been working with. As you create ice and mechanically cool that ice, it also generates heat. And the mechanical design that we've put together, that heat that's generated is actually utilized to go into the snow melt system, so that it'll actually melt the plaza areas as well. So that, from an energy conservation standpoint and an overall operating expense standpoint, will help in that scenario as well.
That's great.
Where does the rental structure go for the ice skating rink?
Good question. We're still debating that, and obviously it's a question we need to answer with the town here, because one option is, does it go in building 6? Don's given up already his corner for our micro retail shop, so
I thought before, when we had seen old drawings, that it was on it was sort of like a temporary kiosk.
yeah, so that's the third option, is to put some type of, whether it's an Airstream trailer that's decked out or something in the winter, where the children's fountain is in the summer. Put something there that could be cool with, skate sign or something.
That'd be
So
fun.
we need to figure that out.
I think the other component that's also in Building 4, near that micro retail, is a location for the Zamboni
Yeah,
to
right.
maintain the ice that's already
Right.
there too. So we lose a little of the commercial area of the, Four Mountain Sports space in there, but to make it work, all of our consultants said you have to have the Zamboni close to this. We've also entertained this to be an electric Zamboni instead of a fossil fuel Zamboni,
Right.
from, a pollution standpoint as well as storage.
So I think the standalone temporary
Yeah.
thing could be cool if we do it right, but there's
Yeah.
a lot of other things to factor in, like where do people's shoes go? If they have shoe storage when they take their shoes off, how do they get from there to the ice skating rink? The other projects we've done, there's usually like a little rubber walkway that they walk on with their skates.
I was just thinking at like CP Burger, what they do, and they have some sort of something down
Yeah.
there.
Yep. So we need to put some more thought into that.
Can you also just elaborate more, Don, on what you were saying about putting stuff under the concrete where the ice skating rink is for use in the summer? Like, what kind of stuff are you talking about?
Well, one of the ideas that came up with our interaction with the Ice Age Discovery folks is to do you actually, put in some fossilized kind of, vignettes to what could be there, so that, you're tying this, Ice Age Discovery Center to the plaza area. Do you put something as simple as hopscotch or something into that, so that during the summer it's there? You can still cover it up if you have a wedding or anything like that that's there, but, games, different kinds of things like that, again. And then, as Andy said, if you need equipment for those kinds of things, where does that reside during the summer? Which is, still a design process that we have to get through yet, but we'd love your feedback on those kinds of things as well.
Okay.
Is there still a walkway between the Limelight and Building 6
Yeah.
in that corner?
Yes, that's a ramp that goes down. There would be an
Okay.
ADA access coming up between the
Okay.
two.
Good, thanks.
Yeah, and I think on the point of this, if we do this right, obviously you have to create these barriers for liquor licensing, but my goal is that this feels like a very welcoming thing that's just part of the general plaza, so it all feels like one at the end of the day here. And I want to explore liquor licensing further. You guys probably know a lot more about it than I do, but is there a possibility to get a broader license so that we're not having to segregate it off into these little pods? So we'll look at that. I have no idea what's possible.
Can you do the common consumption? Yeah, you can?
Yes, there's easier ways to do it.
So we still
So
have
the whole plaza might be the barrier.
something
So
like
somebody
that.
might want to grab a toddy or something with hot cocoa, and then go out and watch their kids ice skate. They could leave that one area.
Right, that'd be ideal, but we'll explore that. So again, we still have a lot of work to do here, but thought it'd be good to update you guys on where we are now, and
Looks
we'll
good.
continue to update you as we
Thank you so
move
much.
forward.
So Andy, on the 2015 PUD site, one more back.
I think
Oh, sorry, that's it, yeah. So, I mean, it definitely looks, I mean, I totally get it why you flip-flop the pool, but it does look like the plaza got smaller. And I think the one takeaway that we got from our visit to Vail, and Harry must have said it to me 2 or 3 times, is the ice rink can be too small. Like,
Yep.
you know, he just kept saying, you know, you don't want an ice rink that's too small.
Right.
Because it just, I mean, I'm sure you have this experience in Vail, right? I mean, that's the feedback that you've gotten.
Yeah, the one at Arabelle is, I think, considered to be too small. The one at Solaris seems to be working well. And
How does that
I
one
haven't
compare to this
studied,
one?
yeah, I haven't studied the difference, but I think these guys looked at it before when it was originally laid out.
This is larger than Arabelle, but smaller than Solaris. I mean, Solaris is actually a really huge sheet of ice.
So
compared to
let us look at this reallocation, and if there's an issue there, we can tweak things.
Yeah. And I think the Zamboni issue is probably real because, I mean, if you did go to the parking garage, then, I mean, do you drive all the way up and around to get in there?
Oh, yeah. No, you need it right there, like
It-
Don has it designed.
But where do you have it designed?
Oh, it goes right in here, right?
Yep,
Right
there's a little garage there that comes right back out. When we talk to people that are running ice rinks and consultants and stuff like that, they said the other issue is you can't have a Zamboni that drives that far away because you pick up all these
Pick up the dirt.
contaminants on the tires,
Right.
and, you know, it impacts the ice quality.
Having that in there creates a lot of complications, but we'll work through it, just in terms of exhausting everything.
Okay, other questions?
We'll let Harry go through
Harry?
some details on Building 6 here.
Good to see you again, Harry. Welcome back. Yeah, been a while, a long while.
So, I'm charged with refreshing in 10 minutes.
I went over, so
Well, yeah,
apologies.
Yeah, I'm very excited about where this is going, and we seem to have, really excited about these guys and their understanding of what's gonna make a really great people space, in this plaza, so that, I think we're headed very much in the right direction. So just to, go through what did happen in the time that we were, between then and now, there were some changes that we did to the design that were responses to your comments and other public comments and so on that you haven't seen, I don't think. So we're going to kind of bring you up to speed about what that is, and I think they're all in the right direction. But obviously, what happens now, we're counting on your involvement and collaboration on getting this thing really tuned up just perfectly. But the potential is there a lot. I think I'm going to do this the same way with the.
Oh, if you're, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
So just briefly, as we recall, the building itself is, the outline of the building is based on the footprint of the plinth of the building that was there previously. So the shapes of this sort of overall shape here is where the plinth is. There are a couple of fixed elements that had to be incorporated in Building 6. There's a stairway and an elevator in this area here, and those come up through from the parking garage, so that defines where that's going to be. The entrance to the village comes out in this zone, and one thing that we've done is adjust the angle of this gallery here for a couple of different reasons, but one of which, this gallery now orients so that in this direction, it goes between these two buildings here, the view from it, and in this direction, it also goes up between the buildings that would be on this side. So that as you kind of go up through the building into the plaza, if there's a possibility of a glimpse of the mountain and so on, it would be through this area here. The other thing that it does is it frees up more area in this zone for the commercial, the cafe and the bar and so on in this area here. The plaza area remains pretty much the same, and the building is still a simple shed with the gallery coming through in this one element here that is over the elevator. On this side, this is the area that we're going to show some pictures of that, but this is the area between the building 6 and the plaza, and that becomes an area that we'd have to do a couple of things. It's about a little over 4 feet in difference in elevation. And so that becomes both something that we have to deal with just plain steps as you come up through the gallery and come down into the plaza. But also it's an area that has the potential for creating this kind of activity that we're talking about. It has another functional necessity, which is getting accessible, making the whole building accessible. And so what we're going to do, and we're just showing preliminary ideas on this, but what I would like to do is show the, and so here's the preliminary ideas, that this becomes almost seating and steps that you can sit on. So there are steps that are designed for walking up and down, and they'd be in the 6 to 7 inch riser range. And then there's steps for sitting on, which might be more in the 14, 15 inch range so that they're comfortable to sit on and so on. And that this whole area here would be a mix. It would be a mix of the ramp that comes up and gets you onto the up onto the level or down into the plaza level. But then if you're just going straight, you can either walk straight down the seats the way you do when you're walking down the seats in a stadium, and you can sit in a lot of different places. And we're going to activate this even more. This is a simplified version of it, but the idea is that. And then there are places where there are actual sort of walk up and down regular steps. Now, the one thing I just point out that there is a 4-foot differential between here and here. And if we were to rent skates up here, that becomes one of the things we have to deal with. It's not too great to walk down a ramp with skates on. In fact, it's a disaster. And you get the slightest bit of slip and you're on your butt. I think the going from the skate rental at the Arc from the rink out to the outdoor rink is one of those places, and you watch people come out there. It's pretty funny. Come out and land on their butt. So we probably wouldn't do that, but you can walk on steps but it's not great for a beginner skater to walk up and down stairs with skates on. Not so great. So it's better somehow if we could deal with that.
That doesn't mean they have to lace them up there. I mean, the seating you have there would be perfect for lacing up skates.
That's the idea, and I think that, and I think you're beginning to, Bill, this is exactly the idea. We got to really think about what skating's about. I've skated a lot my whole life, and it's one of my favorite things to do in outdoor ponds. And the whole idea is that there should be places to be warm, to sit around somehow in here. There should be, not just the ones that are connected with a hotel, but also like little, and you were mentioning cabanas and stuff. But these are all the ideas, places where you can sit down. You don't want to skate the whole time, at least at my age. I like to, you know, I skate for about 20 minutes, then my back is so sore, I gotta go sit down somewhere. So the idea of having good places to sit down, places to look at the kids, make it a family thing, all of that is the potential here. I think the idea of, there's one place where the Zamboni, it gets a little sharp where but you need a certain curve for the Zamboni to be able to do the ice. But having something that isn't just a rink seems a heck of a lot more interesting. The other thing that we've discussed is some sort of portable skate around kind of island thing that might have seats on it that actually could slide around on the ice, but have seasonal things like a Christmas tree in it or something like that. At that point, of course, if this is a Rockefeller Center, we got to be having a tree that's about 90 feet high, but got to amp this up here. But the idea of having something that rolled around that had a thematic element to that you can skate around and come up to and sit on and so on. We're not playing hockey here. We're just cruising around and so on.
Harry, what are those vertical posts on, below the steps?
Well, this is the
like
idea
heat lamps or
of
something?
light. No, they're for stringing lights across the ice here, and that's, you know, that has a, does it work with our lighting restrictions and so on? But nowadays we can do LED lights that are very low, you know. But what they do is they define the space over the ice. And I talk like I'm designing the ice.
Can we incorporate?
Just designing the building.
Can we incorporate some natural gas heat lamps in them, so that'll give the space that Bill's talking about, some warm spots for people to sit on the stairs?
Perfect. Okay, so another idea. Yeah, exactly. And they would be right over the seats,
Right.
and you could have these.
Right, there'd be
things
certain little mushroom areas where people could sit there and
people could sit
stay warm.
and stay warm, because obviously just sitting down you get
You can also
freezing.
use them for hanging flower pots in the summer.
In the summer,
Flower pots
correct.
in the summer, flags, all sorts of things. But the idea that they would be along. They would also be speakers for a sound system, so that you have music and stuff. And you know, that's all essential part of Rockefeller Center is the music that plays. I mean, I can remember the whole sequences of the skating here. Skated there a lot. Okay, so. This just shows, and it's just an example, it's in Portland, and the idea of how a ramp and seating and steps can all be incorporated into a kind of a landscape and so on. This one has no people in it. I don't know how they did that, because every time I've been there, there are thousands of people in this place. It's one of the more fun places. It's a fountain by Halpern, yeah, Lawrence Halpern. Right. So this just shows the modification. Here's the orientation. This is the level that was approved in the PUD with the angle like this. This shows this angle adjusted. So now it goes like this to accommodate and go through that. It opens up an area. We're on the lower level here. And one important thing on the lower level is in the PUD, this area here was covered by the area that is the plaza above. And it seemed that it was in an area it's aimed more or less, you know, will not get sun because of its orientation. And so one thing that we're throwing out for your consideration is the idea that if we were to move this wall from here to here, we would get and the only wall that would have to be built is this one. So for very little cost, this area that's under here that we're having trouble figuring out how it would ever be used, because it's basically in the shade all the time and just and so on. It could be a place that you could have ice sculptures or something in the winter. In the summer, it's still going to be kind of chilly and not the most friendly place. So the idea of perhaps increasing the area of this just slightly, and I believe in the PUD we're allowed 1,000 square feet, is that?
Something like that.
And we've added some areas over here for some of the mechanical room and storage and so on. But this would still stay within that 1,000-foot allowance, well within. I forget what this is, 400 feet or 500 feet or so. But it just seemed a heck of a lot more sensible to enclose that rather than, and the Discovery Center has asked for more room if we are using this area, which is where the theater would be. as a more public theater, having more area for exhibits would make sense and be really helpful too. As you can see, we've gathered the sort of offices and bathrooms into a more condensed area here, which frees up a lot more room in the exhibit area. We still have the idea of coming in and coming up through a landscape. And so this is, as we would call, here's the theater area here. This is the area where the animals parade through the gallery that we had talked about earlier, and so on. And this is the area for more exhibits, but we would be able to increase that by about that much.
So Harry, excuse me, so that little extension that you're showing us,
Yeah.
is that on the second floor?
No, it's on the lower floor.
It's on the ground floor.
Under the patio that we have on the top, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
it just, we already have, so that means we have a roof, we have a floor, we've got one of the walls that we're just moving, and all we're adding is this, and all of a sudden you get, 500 more feet.
Yeah.
So it just seemed like a no-brainer.
Makes sense.
So this is the area that the patio comes over here. And then so in the earlier zone, you can see what's happened to the patio. We've actually increased the size of the patio a little bit. We've increased the size of the commercial area here. This area, instead of being green roof, is actually louvers that we would design specifically to get sunlight and light and whatnot down into that lower level. Because they're oriented this way, when the sun comes down, it reflects off those and actually lights up that area under them, rather than creating a dark place. And as you can see, this was the area that we had before with the commercial area. So this is available. We're anticipating an outdoor service area here. This whole area would have windows that open up, so the bar can be accessed from the outside and the plaza as well as from the inside. So the bar would be in this portion of the cafe. This area we're showing a gift shop, and then this is more or less undetermined at this point, but would be the place that would be more game oriented and that sort of thing for the activating. And we're still anticipating that all of this would open up so that these areas in the summertime would all be permeable, and probably even in the spring, in that wonderful month, April, whatever, late March and April when it's really nice
Depends on what
to
day
be
it falls on.
outside.
Right.
And this is the southern side of this whole thing, so it's going to be a great place to hang out, I think, really. And that's also where we would have those steps, and as Andy was explaining, attempting to blur the distinctions here, I think, is the real key, so that it's not so much this and that, it's this plus that, and a both and rather than an either or. And here's the little bar area with the outside access and so on. And the animals parading through. And I think the other great potential here that makes a really good people place is the idea of making it a sort of a family affair. And all the Discovery Center, using the Discovery Center theme throughout, under the ice. The idea of actually having designs painted under the ice so that you see it, or LED lights that describe, the bones of the mammoths or something. The idea of really making it theme, not crazy, but using that theme all the time so that it's not just the Discovery Center and the scientific part, but that the discovery happens throughout the whole plaza, and that becomes the nature of the theme. So these are just sketches we had before showing the relationship of the animals and the building. And the revised design, this is one rendering of the revised design of the building when we increased the size of the commercial area. these are the elevations with the materials that we had talked about. This is the facade as it was. We've revised it into horizontal lines that have to do with the layering of the soil that the mammoth was in. So that's the idea where this has gone. That layering happens both inside and out. So the idea of kind of walking up through the layers so that we get the idea of, you know, the time and the geologic layers in there. This is a scaled drawing showing the size of the buffalo and the size of the mammoth in these spaces. I mean, you know, this is about a 20-foot, 5-foot high ceiling in here, and you can see these things are going to be pretty impressive in that space. These are the animals that are available in various forms, whether it's bones, sculptures, models, representations on walls, whatever they are, the various scale of the larger animals that we have, and then of course the Discovery Center could include, you know, there are a lot of animals that come down to little mouse-sized elements as well. A reminder of the size and the way that walking up through the area would be. The bison interactivity. I'm just including a couple of images from the exhibit designer that's been working with the Discovery Center to show. And this includes an animal that exists in our climate now, along with animals that existed back then. The T-Rex is not going to be in our exhibit, but otherwise. And then this is just an example of a very, very popular interactive exhibit that they did in a different installation, but this kid is able to move. The sensors see how he moves. That then allows him to fly through the landscape that was there before. And it's something that, you know, kids line up to do and do over and over and over again. But it's the kind of thing where rather than a one-stop shop, if you had something like this, people will come back. People will do it over and over. This is an exhibit, again, an interactive exhibit that's immensely popular at the Smithsonian in New York City, the Cooper Hewitt Museum, and it's about design, but these tables are completely interactive, and you touch them. They're like gigantic touch screens. And while this is fairly prototypical and probably very expensive, we're in that age where each year the price of it comes down about by half, and pretty soon it's affordable for something like what we're talking about. But it's just amazing. In this case, you put together those images and you can create a design. In the Discovery Center, it's just infinite amounts of use because it can be reprogrammed and so on with the same piece of equipment. And then I just finish up with the idea of I think this is being sculpted right now. Tom is here, but they're sculpting a family component so that you have the big mammoth and the little baby mammoth, and the whole idea of sort of family and family. Up here, the kid's dragging his parents to see it, and down here, the scientist is telling you all about it. So I think it's a pretty great combination. So, questions or anything like that? That's my.
What about the theater? What about the theater, Harry?
Okay, theater. Did we have those in here or not?
It's on the floor plan.
Okay.
And there was a picture in our thing.
Yeah, I think we did a condensed version. We didn't include that in this presentation, but we have a full one.
So this is something I think you have to kind of, this is something that has to be worked out. The exhibit designer and me, I'm excited about a theater that isn't a bunch of chairs, okay? That it would be, that it's kind of fun, and I've been in them where you're sitting on kind of foam-covered rocks and stuff, and that it isn't your typical kind of Kiwanis meeting. Well, you know that, which is okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But the idea that this could be both, that it can be a really exciting theater space that somebody can do a live show in and people can sit comfortably, and somebody can do, deliver a lecture, or you can have some music, or you can do that. And the comment, again, it's blurring the distinctions of what's really what. Now, if the, I mean, I'm not, if the community is, feels it's really important that this be, have the flexibility to have regular kind of rows of seats and so on, that can be done. From my point of view, I think that we can make a theater with this creative exhibit designer that can serve both purposes and be kind of the neatest place to have a meeting in town, if you wanted to, and see a movie, and have a reading of a poetry reading, and have these kind of events. What it won't be is sort of the reserved seat kind of venue. Now, if we want a reserved seat venue, then we can do that. I mean, the space is there, we can do that, we can isolate it and so on. But it seemed to me that the fun part would be to make it something that's kind of a little wacky, but still able to be used for all that. Because projection, used to be that projection required, if you were doing this as a movie theater, you'd need a projection booth here, because it would be noisy and all that stuff. We don't need to do that anymore. All the projection is one of these things, and it could be right in the room. So you can have, and the exhibit designer and so on is anticipating things that the eventual, as technology moves and you're upgrading your exhibits, that it can be 3D presentation. You could have a, who knows? This could be a hologram, at some point in the future. And designing it sort of as your basic in-your-seat theater sort of misses that opportunity. And so that's my little deal. But I am not, I mean, if we want to do a theater, we'll do, with seats, that's what we can do, or movable seats.
I think the creativity is really coming through, which is exactly what we need.
Yeah, I think
because it's discovery.
Yeah, it's a discovery thing, and keeping it alive is the main thing. I mean, I think that's our big, challenge is to. I think that there are enough examples out there of places that do encourage repeat visits. If you were coming for a week, being able to get, like, let's say, somehow incorporated a week-long pass for you and your family and your kids, so that your kids could go back to this place and play with that thing where you're flying anytime they wanted, would be a really great thing. Then they're gonna come back, time after time. Maybe the parents go the first time and sign them all up and do the whole deal, and then maybe they but then after that, hey, can we go, what are you gonna do? Can we go and do this thing again? And because there's enough of that kind of vitality going on. There's a show we didn't see the end of. There's a thing we didn't, we want to go back and dig this or discover that. The other idea is the idea of having events that spread out, treasure hunts, checkoff lists, things like that go out throughout the plaza, so that you're not just hung up in this building, you're actually going there. And then obviously the next one is to actually go up to the actual site and look at that. But being able to dig things up, check things off, find that Pokemon, look at the success of the Pokemon thing. You had one of those things where you're going around discovering, animal bones hidden in under, around the plaza. What an exciting thing to do. Really cool. So I think this is the potential, and that's it. Okay. That's up to speed.
What are the dimensions of that theater space?
Yeah, we might be able to get close.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I think we need to have that space be very flexible so that we can, entertain a lot of different opportunities there.
So maybe it is a bunch of chairs that live in a room, and some foam rocks that are light enough so that you can push them aside and put out the chairs. I mean,
Yeah.
Why not?
And on the far left there, the eave, that's the roof eave?
The far left is this is the access. There's two different accesses. One is coming this way on the lower level through here into this, what was it, a mechanical space underneath the steps. And then up above, there's an area that comes off this and comes down. So if we go. So here, this is the patio and the way to get to the bathrooms that are here. So that allows you to get access these public bathrooms if you're not going through the building. Obviously, you get to them through the building too. But
Yeah, I think the key with that theater space is just making sure that it's really functional. If maybe it's, the projection screen is one way, and if you're gonna have a speaker, maybe it's set up in the other direction, so there's some type of elevated, not a stage, but if it's sloping that way.
right, there isn't a huge amount of ceiling height. We're constricted with ceiling height in this whole level because the higher the ceiling is, the further the disparity between the upper floor level and the plaza, right? So trying to minimize that. The plaza level is fixed. The floor level on this is fixed by the plinth that's already there. So the second story level, the further up we go, the more steps we have between that second level and the plaza.
Right.
So we're sort of, we'll play every trick in the book. We probably will, we can leave that ceiling exposed and so on, so that we don't have a flat ceiling that's down at some height. We'll go up into the structure and paint it dark and have cool lighting and stuff.
Well, here you will come up with something. So creative.
You're very.
It's getting a little late, so I'm going to suggest we move on. Is there any other questions?
Julian, do we have to do anything to
We just-
provide whatever is necessary
We
to
just
maintain?
really wanted to have this be a check-in, and
Okay.
if you generally see the direction that they're heading in and you're comfortable with it, then, we can certainly continue the conversation with them and move it forward. But we wanted to make sure we had that opportunity before November 1st, so that we can still be tracking for January 1st drawings.
I think you're moving in the right direction. I like the creativity and the energy that I see on the new team, so.
Yeah, I'll second that. I think the changes that you propose for Building 6 are really good. They make some better use out of the space, the footprint, the space, and I think the stair ramp concept to get to the plaza is really, really interesting. It's really good.
I'm pleasantly surprised because incorporating the whole discovery along with the new design, I'm very pleased with what you came up with.
I'm really excited. Thank you so much.
Are you excited?
I am excited.
We are bursting with excitement.
It's 20 to 8.
So you're comfortable with the
Yes.
direction of
Yes.
expanding
Yes.
that lower level by an additional 500 square feet?
It's
to-
not a big deal. It makes sense.
Totally.
So let's not do brain exercise on something that's stupid.
And Andy, is the idea to construct Building 6 at the same time as the Limelight?
Yeah, it won't start at the same time just because the design hasn't been ongoing, whereas Aspen Skiing Company has been advancing the design of the Limelight as we've gone through this process. So we still need to put together a final design schedule with Harry in terms of when Building 6 CDs would be done. Our best guess at this point is sometime in the summer. So whereas our goal is to start Limelight and, once the mountain shuts down in April, basically, Building 6 may not start until summer or fall. But we know it's a shorter duration than Limelight, so we think we can still achieve that November 1st, 2018 completion date for it. So it'll all be finished together with the plaza, but it may actually start later.
Gotcha. That's great.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Move on, Town Council reports and actions. Alyssa, anything?
I have a Northwest COG meeting at the end of the month, and that's really it.
Go.
I've got a Nordic Council meeting tomorrow. We're going to discuss Owl Creek Chase and how Snowmass tourism can get involved with that. So that's going to be exciting. Opening of the 7-Star Trail. People were absolutely giddy about the trail. And the new connector trail is open from the road down, and that's been a nice piece as well.
Okay. We had a RAFTA board meeting this last week, and I was just checking my notes as well. Let me tell you a little bit about the agenda. I'll keep it short. There's more budget stuff, an ITSP update with Parsons, Grand Avenue Bridge update, mitigation plan. We've learned that our solar array that we invested in for 20 years, the payback is not what had been anticipated, so that's pretty much a disappointment right now for that solar array. And then lastly, the budget, a lot of issues with the budget, and we do have a request in for $35,000 for WeCycle, 25,000 of that's for Aspen and 10 is for Basalt, so I don't quite understand the EOTC request.
Well, and that's why we thought,
Yeah.
let's talk about level of service and how do we improve on the level of service for the whole system.
Other than that, there's other issues, but I don't think it's important.
I don't have anything.
Just have a core meeting coming up November 3rd.
Okay, good. Clint, did you have anything?
Nope.
I'm glad that Granicus did come back on. Thank you all for working through all those technical difficulties. I know it's a pain, to say the least. Executive session. Town council will now meet in executive session pursuant to CRS 24-64024 and the Snowmass Village Municipal Code, Section 245C, to specifically discuss one item. Personnel matters, except if the employee who is subject of the session has requested an open meeting pursuant to CRS 24-64024FL and Snowmass Village Municipal Code 245C6, provided there is an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the quorum present at this meeting to hold an executive session, and for the sole purpose of considering one item, which is personnel matters, provided further that no adoption of any proposed policy, position, resolution, regulation, or formal action shall occur at this executive session. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in support?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.